The sky above Trost district burned orange with the setting sun, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets. Citizens moved through the market with practiced efficiency, their conversations muted by years of living behind walls. Children played near the fountain while merchants haggled over grain prices. It was peaceful, ordinary, the kind of peace that made people forget, for just a moment, that beyond the 50-meter walls, hell waited with hungry mouths and empty eyes. Then reality split open. No portal shimmered into existence. No thunder heralded the arrival. One moment, the air above the district square was empty. The next, a man in black armor plummeted from nowhere, crashing through a merchant's canvas awning and slamming into the stone street hard enough to crack it. The impact echoed like a cannon shot. Guts rolled to his feet before the dust settled, Dragonslayer already in his hands. 7 feet of pitted steel swept in a defensive arc as his single eye scanned for enemies. Apostles. Had to be apostles. The Skull Knight's spatial attack had torn something open, and now he froze. This wasn't the battlefield he'd left. No twisted demons, no blood-soaked grass, just people, dozens of them, backing away with wide eyes and raised hands. Human faces, human screams, a child crying. Guts breathing steadied as he processed the scene. Wherever that bastard in the skull helmet sent him, it wasn't the interstice. The architecture was wrong. Too uniform, too planned. Medieval, but strangely organized. And those walls in the distance, impossibly high, curving away in both directions, like the rim of some massive bowl. The air smelled different, cleaner, no rot, no sulfur, no blood. The brand of sacrifice on his neck didn't bleed. For the first time in years, the cursed mark was silent. What is that sword? Someone whispered. Guts ignored them, his tactical mind already working. Unknown territory, unknown threats. The Berserker Armor's weight pressed against his skin beneath his black cloak, a constant reminder of the beast he kept chained. His prosthetic left arm, the arm cannon hidden beneath the false hand, remained ready. Whatever this place was, he'd survived worse. "It's a person. He just appeared." Another voice called out. "Get the garrison, now." Boots on stone. Soldiers approaching from the western street, already forming a perimeter. Guts counted 12, each carrying strange bladed equipment on their hips and some kind of gas-powered gear strapped to their waists. Not swords. Some kind of specialized weaponry. Their uniforms were identical. Organized military, not mercenary rabble. The lead soldier, a man with a thick beard and sergeant's insignia, raised his hand. "You, put down the weapon. Identify yourself." Guts stared at him. The sword didn't lower. "Sir," I said, "where am I?" Guts's voice cut through the square like iron grinding against stone. "What is this place?" The sergeant's jaw tightened. "You're in Trost District, Southern Territory of Wall Rose, and you're under arrest for unlawful entry and..." He paused, eyeing the Dragonslayer. "Possession of an illegal weapon." Wall Rose. Territory. The words meant nothing. But the fear in these people's eyes, that was universal. They were prey animals wearing military uniforms, going through the motions of authority while terror simmered just beneath the surface. Guts had seen it before. In kingdoms besieged by apostles. In towns where demons hunted at night. These weren't conquerors. They were survivors. Something was hunting them. "What hunts you?" Guts asked, his grip loosening slightly on the Dragonslayer. "What are you afraid of?" The sergeant's face went pale. How did you?" A bell began to toll. Deep, resonant. The sound of it turned every face in the square, white with terror. "No," someone breathed. "Not now. Not again." The civilians scattered like startled birds. Mothers grabbed children, merchants abandoned their stalls. The soldiers' hands went to their equipment, fingers trembling as they activated mechanisms Guts didn't recognize. Gas hissed. Blades snapped into place. "All units to the wall," the sergeant screamed. Titan spotted approaching from the south. Titan. Guts turned toward the wall, toward the direction every soldier was now running. His instincts, honed through 100 battlefields, sharpened by fighting monsters that defied nature, screamed warning. Something massive was approaching. He could feel it through the ground. Footsteps. Heavy, impossibly heavy. He began walking toward the wall. "Are you insane?" A young soldier grabbed his shoulder. "That's where the Titan..." Guts shrugged off the hand and kept walking. Behind him, chaos erupted as garrison troops scrambled to evacuate citizens and man defensive positions. Let them run. Let them panic. Guts had learned long ago that the only way to understand a monster was to face it. The Dragonslayer scraped against the cobblestones as he moved through the emptying streets. His boots echoed in the sudden silence. Somewhere ahead, beyond buildings and fear, something waited. Something these people called a Titan. The brand of sacrifice remained silent on his neck. No apostles, no demons. But something in this world devoured humanity just the same. Guts had fought monsters his entire life. He'd survived the eclipse. He'd killed apostles in human form and demon shape alike. He'd worn the Berserker Armor and walked through hell without flinching. Whatever a Titan was, it would bleed. If you want to see more crossover battles and unexpected universe collisions, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together. The screaming started before he reached the wall. High-pitched, primal, the sound of people realizing death had arrived. Guts broke into a run. The Dragonslayer lifted to his shoulder, his single eye fixed on the massive shadow now visible over the rooftops. Something was moving beyond the wall. Something enormous. And for the first time since the Skull Knight's blade had torn reality apart, Guts smiled. Finally, a fight. The shadow fell across Trost's southern district like a shroud. Guts rounded the corner of a residential street and stopped, his tactical mind processing what his eye refused to accept. A hand, easily 15 meters from wrist to fingertips, gripped the top of the wall. The stone crumbled under its pressure like dry bread. Then the head rose above the barrier, and Guts understood why these people lived in terror. The Titan's face was a grotesque mockery of humanity. Skin stretched too tight over a lipless mouth filled with blunt, grinding teeth. Eyes vacant and gleaming with mindless hunger. No intelligence, no awareness, just appetite given form, wearing human features like a cruel joke. It hauled itself up with childlike clumsiness, muscles rippling beneath skin that seemed too thin to contain them. 15 meters tall, maybe more. Steam rose from its body in waves, distorting the air around it. Guts had seen apostles take countless forms. Beasts with human faces, insects with screaming mouths, amalgamations of flesh that defied description. But this was different. Apostles were demons wearing stolen shapes. This was something else. Something wrong in a way that made his Jando instincts flare with recognition. It was a predator, pure and simple. Humanity reduced to meat in motion. The Titan's massive legs swung over the wall. Soldiers on the ramparts fired some kind of anchored cables, the mechanisms on their waists propelling them through the air in controlled arcs. The mobility was impressive. They flew like birds, spinning and adjusting trajectory with bursts of gas. Blades flashed as they swarmed the Titan's legs, carving deep gouges in the flesh. The wounds steamed and closed within seconds. "Nape!" someone screamed. "Target the nape!" One soldier, young, maybe 19, shot his cables toward the Titan's neck, the hooks embedded in the creature's shoulder. He released a burst of gas, rocketing upward with both blades extended. Fast, precise, the kind of attack that took years of training to execute. The Titan's hand moved faster. It was casual, lazy almost. One massive palm swept through the air and caught the soldier mid-flight. Fingers closed. The screaming stopped with a wet crunch. The Titan brought its hand to its mouth and bit down. Blood sprayed across the wall. More screaming, more cables firing, more soldiers dying. Guts watched 3 more die in the span of 30 seconds. A woman whose cables snapped, sending her plummeting. A man who mistimed his strike and crashed into the Titan's arm, stunning himself long enough for the creature to grab him. Another caught between the Titan's teeth, still screaming as it chewed. The garrison was breaking. He could see it in their movements, the hesitation before firing cables, the wider arcs to stay out of reach, the retreat disguised as repositioning. They'd seen too many die. Fear was replacing discipline. A family ran past Guts. Father carrying a daughter, mother pulling a son. They didn't even see him. Their eyes were locked on the residential streets, on escape routes, on anywhere but the Titan now, fully inside the district. It knelt with earthquake force, reaching for a warehouse where civilians huddled. Guts moved. The Dragonslayer came off his shoulder in a smooth arc. He'd crossed half the distance before the Titan's hand closed around the warehouse roof. The building groaned. Timber splintered. People inside screamed prayers to gods that weren't listening. 30 meters, 20. Guts' boots hammered the cobblestones. The Titan's fingers peeled back the roof like opening a crate. Its vacant eyes focused on the terrified humans inside with the intensity of a starving animal finding prey. 10 meters. Guts planted his prosthetic foot and launched himself forward. The Dragonslayer, 400 pounds of tempered steel that had cleaved through apostle hide and demon bone, came around in a horizontal slash aimed at the Titan's wrist. The blade connected with a sound like a butcher's cleaver hitting a side of beef. The Titan's hand separated from its arm. It happened so fast the creature didn't react. The severed hand, still gripping the warehouse roof, crashed to the street in a cloud of dust and steam. Blood sprayed from the stump, hot and oddly colorless, almost pink. The Titan's head turned with mechanical slowness, its empty eyes finding Guts. Then it reached for him with its remaining hand. Guts rolled left. The palm struck the street where he'd been standing, cratering the cobblestones. He came up running, angling toward the creature's legs. No hesitation. No fear. Just pure forward aggression honed through decades of fighting monsters. The Titan tried to stand, and Guts struck its knee. The Dragonslayer sheared through muscle and bone. The Titan's leg buckled. It toppled forward with enough force to shake buildings, its massive body crashing into an abandoned merchant stall. Wood exploded. Stone cracked. On the wall, a soldier stood frozen, cable mid-fire, staring at what had just happened. He cut it. The Titan was already regenerating. Steam poured from its wounds as muscle fibers knitted back together with obscene speed. Its hand was regrowing, flesh bubbling up from the stump like rising dough. The knee Guts had destroyed was halfway repaired. Fast. Too fast for normal healing. This wasn't just resilience, this was something else. Some mechanism that violated the natural order. Guts had seen apostles regenerate, but never this quickly. Never this completely. The Titan pushed itself up with its regrowing hand. Those vacant eyes locked onto Guts again. Its mouth opened, revealing the grinding teeth, the lack of tongue, the throat that seemed to go on forever. It lunged with startling speed, jaws wide enough to swallow him whole. Guts didn't dodge. He stepped forward, inside the creature's reach, and drove the Dragonslayer straight up through the bottom of its jaw. The blade punched, through the roof of its mouth and into the skull cavity with a sound like cracking pottery. He twisted, wrenched, and tore the sword free in a spray of steaming blood. The Titan recoiled, its regeneration already working on the massive wound. But something changed. Its movements became more erratic, less coordinated. It swung wildly, its remaining hand sweeping through empty air while its body teetered. "The brain!" a voice shouted from above. "He damaged the brain. It's stunned." Guts looked up. A small figure stood on the wall's edge. A man, no, too short, maybe 5'3" at most. Dark hair, gray eyes cold as winter steel. He held blades in both hands, his posture perfectly balanced despite the 40-meter drop beneath him. Their eyes met for 1 second. Recognition flashed between them, not of identity, but of type. Predator recognizing predator. Killer acknowledging killer. The small man's expression didn't change, but something in his gaze sharpened, assessed, calculated. Then he was moving. Cables fired with mechanical precision. The small man shot toward the Titan like an arrow, spinning mid-flight to build momentum. His blades caught the sunlight as he carved through the air, trajectory perfect, speed inhuman. He struck the back of the Titan's neck in a blur of steel. Both blades sank deep. He carved horizontally, cutting a chunk of flesh from the nape, and kicked off in a burst of gas before the body even began to fall. The Titan collapsed. This time, it didn't get up. The steam intensified, pouring from every wound, and the massive body began to deteriorate. Flesh sagged, muscles atrophied. Within seconds, the 15-meter monstrosity was deflating like a punctured wineskin. Guts watched the corpse dissolve. No bones remained, no organs, just evaporating steam and a rapidly shrinking carcass that would leave almost nothing behind. Whatever these Titans were, they weren't natural. They were something else. Something constructed, weaponized. The small man landed 20 feet away, his cables retracting smoothly. He faced Guts, blades still drawn, his expression unreadable. "You're not Garrison," he said. His voice was quiet, controlled. "You're not Survey Corps. Those clothes aren't from inside the walls." His eyes flicked to the Dragonslayer, taking in the impossible size, the pitted surface, the blood, Titan blood, still steaming on the blade. "And that's not a standard weapon." Guts said nothing. Around them, surviving soldiers were landing, forming a loose perimeter. More were coming from the wall. A squad, maybe 2 squads, all of them staring at him like he'd just walked out of a nightmare. "I'm Captain Levi," the small man continued. "Survey Corps Special Operations Squad, and you're going to answer some questions." It wasn't a request. Guts shifted his grip on the Dragonslayer, feeling the familiar weight, the perfect balance. These soldiers with their flying equipment and specialized blades, they were skilled, efficient. The one called Levi had killed the Titan with surgical precision. But Guts had survived worse than skilled soldiers, had fought armies, had walked through the eclipse and lived. "Your Titan is dead," Guts said. "Your people are alive. That's all the answer you're getting." Levi's expression didn't change. "Wrong answer." The cables fired in unison. They came at him from 6 directions simultaneously. Guts' eye tracked their movements. Cables firing, bodies launching through the air in coordinated arcs, blades catching sunlight as they converged. Professional, disciplined, the kind of assault that came from years of training and dozens of kills. These weren't conscripts playing soldier. These were hunters who'd learned their craft against monsters. But Guts had fought the Band of the Hawk in its prime, had survived Zod the Immortal, had carved through the Eclipse's demons while the God Hand watched. Speed meant nothing if you could read the attack. The first soldier came from his right, a feint, drawing his attention while two more approached from behind. Guts didn't bite. He pivoted left, inside the arc of the feint, and brought the Dragonslayer around in a rising sweep. Not to kill, just to create space. The flat of the blade caught the soldier's cables mid-flight, tangling them. The man's trajectory went wild, slamming him into a wall hard enough to crack stone. He crumpled, unconscious, before he hit the ground. Two more soldiers adjusted mid-air, firing fresh cables to compensate. Good adaptability. Guts respected that. He stomped on one cable as it struck near his feet, pinning it. The soldier on the other end jerked to a halt, dangling 15 feet up, vulnerable. Guts ignored him. Levi came straight down from above. No fancy maneuvers, no wasted movement. Just pure vertical acceleration and two blades aimed at Guts' shoulders. Non-lethal targets, meant to disable. The attack was so fast most men wouldn't have seen it coming. Guts raised his prosthetic arm. The blade struck the metal with a screech of steel on steel. Sparks flew. Levi's eyes widened fractionally, the first emotion Guts had seen from him, as his momentum stopped dead against an arm that shouldn't have been able to block that strike. For one frozen second, they were locked there. Levi suspended by his cables, Guts holding position with his arm raised. "Interesting," Levi said quietly. Then he disengaged with a burst of gas, spinning away and landing on a rooftop 20 meters distant. The other soldiers fell back immediately, forming a new perimeter. No one pressed the attack. They were waiting for their captain's signal. Smart, disciplined. And now they knew Guts was faster than he looked. "Stand down." A new voice, sharp with authority, cut through the tension. "All units, stand down." The soldiers hesitated, looking toward the wall. A man strode through the breach the Titan had created. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the bearing of someone used to being obeyed. Late 40s, maybe 50. His uniform bore different insignia than the others. Higher rank, his eyes were sharp, calculating, taking in the dissolved Titan corpse, the damaged buildings, Guts standing in the center of it all, with the Dragonslayer still ready. "Captain Levi?" the man said, his voice carrying easily. "Report." Levi didn't take his eyes off Guts. 15-meter class breached the wall, killed 7 garrison, wounded 3 more. This one, he gestured with one blade toward Guts, engaged it in close combat, cut off its hand and damaged its brain before I took the nape. Close combat? The older man's eyebrows rose. Without ODM gear? Without ODM gear, without backup, with a sword that weighs more than most men can carry. Levi's tone remained flat, but something dangerous lurked beneath it. He also blocked my strike with his left arm, which is metal under that glove. The older man's gaze sharpened. He walked closer, slow and deliberate, stopping 10 paces from Guts. Close enough to talk, far enough to react if things went wrong. "I'm Commander Pixis," he said. "Garrison Regiment, Southern Territory. You just saved civilian lives and killed a Titan with your bare hands. That makes you either the luckiest man alive, incredibly skilled, or something we haven't encountered before." He paused. "Given Captain Levi's report, I'm leaning toward the third option." Guts said nothing. His eye swept the perimeter, 8 soldiers still ready, Levi on the rooftop, more approaching from deeper in the district. He could fight his way out, probably. But to what end? He didn't know this world, didn't know its threats or its geography, didn't know if there was even a way back to his own reality. And the brand wasn't bleeding. For the first time in years, no demons hunted him. No nightly attacks, no endless warfare against the supernatural. The silence of it was almost unsettling. "What's your name?" Pixis asked. A long moment passed. Then, "Guts," Guts. Pixis repeated it like he was testing the weight of the word. And where are you from, Guts? Because I've commanded the Southern Territory for 15 years, and I've never seen equipment like yours, never seen a sword like that. And I certainly haven't seen anyone fight a Titan hand-to-hand and walk away. Not from here. That much is obvious. Pixis gestured to the dissolving Titan corpse. What isn't obvious is why you engaged that Titan. Most people run. Even trained soldiers hesitate. You attacked without ODM gear, without knowledge of Titan anatomy, without backup. That's either suicidal bravery or you've fought things like that before. Guts' jaw tightened. Apostles? He'd fought apostles. Creatures that wore human skin and transformed into nightmares. Monsters that regenerated from wounds that should have been fatal. The Titan reminded him of them. Mindless consumption, impossible physiology, the steam that rose from their flesh. I've fought monsters, Guts said finally. These Titans aren't the first. Monsters. Pixis's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Interest, or maybe concern. The Titans are the only monsters humanity faces, have faced for over 100 years. So either you're older than you look, or you're from somewhere beyond the walls, somewhere we don't know about. Commander, Levi dropped from the rooftop, landing with barely a sound. He walked toward them, his blade still drawn, but lowered. This isn't an interrogation site. We have garrison wounded, civilian casualties to count, and a breach in the wall to repair. Questions can wait. Pixis glanced at him. You want to take him to HQ? I want to make sure he's not a threat. Levi's eyes never left Guts. And I want to know how a man can cut through Titan flesh without ODM momentum behind the strike. The science doesn't work. The physics doesn't work. Which means there's something we're not seeing. The physics is simple, Guts said, lifting the Dragonslayer slightly. The sword is heavy. I'm strong enough to swing it. The Titan's flesh cut because I hit it hard enough. No. Levi shook his head. I've seen soldiers try to fight Titans from the ground. I've seen what happens when you attack without the speed ODM gear provides. The blade catches in the muscle. The regeneration traps the weapon. You don't get clean cuts. You get stuck, and then you get eaten. He pointed at Guts' sword. But you carved through that Titan's wrist like it was butter. Explain that. Guts almost smiled. Almost. I've been swinging this sword since I was 12 years old. Every day, every battle. You build strength when the sword you carry is trying to kill you just by existing. You're saying raw strength is enough. I'm saying I've killed things tougher than your Titans. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Several soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Levi's expression remained neutral, but his grip on his blades tightened fractionally. Commander Pixis. A soldier ran up, saluting quickly. The breach is secure. No more Titans detected. Casualty count is finalized. 7 dead, 3 critical, 12 wounded but stable. Civilian casualties are minimal thanks to... He trailed off, looking at Guts uncertainly. Thanks to our mysterious visitor. Pixis nodded slowly. Get the wounded to medical. I want a full repair crew on that wall section within the hour, and send word to Survey Corps headquarters. Tell Commander Irwin we have a situation that requires his personal attention. The soldier saluted and ran off. Pixis turned back to Guts, his expression thoughtful. You saved lives today, he said quietly. Whatever else you are, whatever you're hiding, that counts for something. But Levi is right. We need answers. These Titans have been humanity's enemy for over a century. They've killed countless thousands, pushed us behind these walls and made us prey in our own world. If you've truly fought things worse than Titans, if you know something that could help us... He paused. That makes you either humanity's best hope or its greatest threat. Guts looked at him. Really looked. This wasn't a corrupt noble or a power-hungry lord. This was a soldier who'd watched his people die, who carried the weight of command like a physical burden, who was desperate enough to see a stranger with a giant sword as potential salvation. Guts knew that desperation, had seen it in the refugees fleeing apostle attacks, in the survivors of burned villages, in Casca's eyes after the eclipse destroyed everything they'd built. "I'll answer questions," Guts said finally. "But I don't take orders. And if anyone tries to put me in a cage, we'll have a problem." Pixis nodded. "Fair enough. Captain Levi, escort our guest to Survey Corps headquarters. I'll send word ahead." Levi's jaw tightened, but he sheathed his blades. "This way." He turned and started walking. Guts followed, the Dragonslayer returning to his shoulder. Behind them, soldiers began the grim work of cleanup, bodies to recover, rubble to clear, families to notify that their loved ones weren't coming home. The same work that happened after every monster attack. Different world, same hell. As they walked through Trost streets, Guts noticed the looks. Fear, awe, confusion. Children hiding behind their parents, adults whispering prayers or curses. He'd seen those looks before too. The looks given to someone who'd done the impossible, or someone who wasn't quite human. Levi walked ahead, his posture relaxed but ready. Every few seconds, his eyes flicked back toward Guts, measuring, calculating, trying to solve the equation of how a man could fight like a squad of soldiers. "You held back," Levi said suddenly. Guts raised an eyebrow. "When my squad engaged you, you didn't kill anyone. Could have, didn't." Levi glanced back. "Why? They weren't trying to kill me." "How did you know?" "Your blades were aimed at my shoulders and legs. Disabling strikes. If you'd wanted me dead, you would have gone for the neck." Guts met his gaze. "And if you'd gone for the neck, I would have killed you." It wasn't a threat, just a statement of fact. Levi held his gaze for a long moment. Then he turned forward again, continuing to walk. "Commander Irwin is going to want to meet you," he said. "He's going to ask questions, a lot of questions, and he's going to want you to join the Survey Corps." "Not interested." "Everyone says that. Then they see what we're fighting for. What's at stake?" Levi's voice remained flat, emotionless. "But you're different. You don't care about humanity's survival. You don't care about taking back the world from the Titans. You just wanted to fight." Guts didn't respond. Because Levi wasn't wrong. They walked in silence toward whatever waited at Survey Corps headquarters. Behind them, Trost began the process of burying its dead and rebuilding its walls. Another day, another battle, another temporary victory against creatures that shouldn't exist. And Guts, for the first time since the eclipse, felt the strangest sensation. The brand of sacrifice wasn't bleeding. No demons were coming. For one night, maybe two, he might actually sleep. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd fallen into a world where humanity was being devoured by giants, and somehow it was more peaceful than his own. Survey Corps headquarters sat on the outskirts of Trost, a utilitarian stone structure that had seen better decades. The walls bore scars, impact marks, scorch patterns, stains that might have been blood or might have been rust. Hard to tell, hard to care. Guts had seen enough military installations to recognize the signs. This was a place where people came to die for a cause, and everyone knew it. Levi led him through corridors lit by oil lamps. Soldiers stopped mid-conversation to stare as they passed. Word traveled fast in military circles. By now, everyone in the building probably knew about the man who'd fought a Titan with a sword bigger than most people. They stopped at a heavy wooden door. Levi knocked twice, sharp, precise. and entered without waiting for a response. The office beyond was sparse, a desk covered in maps and reports, bookshelves packed with tactical manuals and terrain surveys, a window overlooking the training yard where soldiers practiced with their ODM gear, launching and spinning through the air like mechanical acrobats. Behind the desk sat a man who looked like he'd been carved from strategy itself. Tall, blonde, early 40s maybe. But it was the eyes that caught Guts' attention. Sharp blue and utterly calculating. This wasn't a soldier who'd risen through the ranks by following orders. This was a man who saw 3 moves ahead, who weighed lives like chess pieces, who would sacrifice anything for the right outcome. Guts recognized the type. He'd served under one once. Griffith. His hand tightened on the Dragonslayer's handle. "Commander Erwin Smith," the man said, standing. His voice was measured, controlled. "Thank you for coming, mister." Guts. Erwin gestured to a chair. "Please, sit." Guts didn't move. The Dragonslayer remained on his shoulder, a clear statement. Erwin's expression didn't change. He'd expected the refusal. But something flickered in those calculating eyes. Approval, maybe, or recognition that force wouldn't work here. "Very well." Erwin sat back down, folding his hands on the desk. "Levi, report." Levi moved to stand by the window, his back to the wall, positioned where he could see both Guts and the door. Combat positioning, always maintaining tactical advantage. 15-meter class breached Trost South Gate at 1600 hours, Levi said, his tone clinical. Garrison response was standard. ODM deployment, nape targeting, 7 casualties before successful elimination. Subject engaged the Titan during initial breach with an oversized blade, severed its hand, and damaged its brain through the jaw. I executed the kill strike while it was stunned. Subject. Guts' eye narrowed. "You haven't given us much else to call you," Levi replied flatly. Erwin leaned forward slightly. "Captain Levi also reports that you moved with superhuman speed, blocked his strike with a prosthetic arm made of metal, and demonstrated combat awareness beyond any soldier in our ranks." He paused. "He also believes you were holding back significantly during the engagement." I was. The honesty seemed to surprise them both. Erwin's eyebrows rose fractionally. Levi's expression remained neutral, but his posture shifted, ready. "May I ask why?" Erwin said. "They weren't trying to kill me. I don't kill people unless they give me a reason." Guts met Erwin's gaze. "Your soldiers were doing their job. I respect that. But you would have killed them if they'd escalated." "Yes." Another pause. Erwin's fingers tapped the desk once, a tiny tell, quickly suppressed. He was recalculating, adjusting his approach. Guts had seen Griffith do the same thing when a tactic wasn't working. "Commander Pixis sent word ahead," Erwin continued. "He says you claim to have fought monsters before. Not titans, monsters. And that you're not from inside the walls." He pulled out a map, spreading it across the desk. "This is the known world. 3 concentric walls, Maria, Rose, and Sina. Humanity lives within them. Beyond Wall Maria is Titan territory. Nothing survives out there. No settlements, no kingdoms, no civilization." He looked up. "So where exactly are you from?" Guts stared at the map. 3 walls. Humanity trapped in a cage of their own making. It reminded him of Midland's fortress cities, huddled behind stone while apostles prowled the wilderness. But this was worse. This was an entire species reduced to prey. "Somewhere else," Guts said finally. "Different world, different rules." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." Erwin's jaw tightened. For the first time, Guts saw frustration crack through that calculated exterior. This was a man used to extracting information, used to getting what he needed through leverage or logic. But Guts had nothing to leverage, no family to threaten, no home to protect, nothing to lose. "Let me be direct," Erwin said, standing. He walked around the desk, stopping a few paces from Guts. Close enough to talk quietly, far enough to react if needed. The Survey Corps exists for one purpose: to reclaim the world from the Titans, to push beyond the walls and discover the truth about these creatures, about where they came from, about why they hunt us. His voice dropped, intensity building beneath the measured tone. "We lose 30% of our soldiers on every expedition, 30%. And we keep going because humanity has no other choice. If we don't fight, we die behind these walls, slowly suffocating until the Titans break through and finish what they started 100 years ago." He took a step closer. "You killed a Titan with a sword. No ODM gear, no training, no knowledge of their anatomy. That shouldn't be possible. But you did it, which means you're either a miracle or you know something we don't." Erwin's eyes bore into him. "I need to know which." Guts held his gaze. This was the pitch, the recruitment speech, the appeal to something greater than himself. He'd heard it before. Fight for humanity. Fight for the future. Fight for something that matters. Griffith had said the same things, and look where that had led. "Your fight isn't mine," Guts said quietly. "Why not?" "Because I've seen what happens when you follow someone else's dream." Guts's hand tightened on the Dragonslayer. "I've seen what people sacrifice for their grand visions, how many bodies they stack to reach their goals. Your 30% casualty rate?" He almost laughed. "That's nothing. I watched an entire army get slaughtered for one man's ambition. Watched people I cared about die screaming while demons wore their faces. So don't talk to me about humanity's survival. Don't talk to me about sacrifice. I've already paid that price." Silence fell over the office. Even Levi seemed to reassess, his cold eyes studying Guts with new attention. Erwin didn't flinch. "Then what do you fight for?" "Myself. My survival. Nothing else." "I don't believe that." "I don't care what you believe. If you only fought for yourself, you wouldn't have engaged that Titan. You would have let it kill those civilians and walked away." Erwin crossed his arms. "But you didn't. You put yourself in danger to save people you don't know, in a world you don't understand, with no benefit to yourself. That's not self-preservation. That's something else." Guts's jaw clenched. He wanted to argue, wanted to say Erwin was wrong. But the bastard had a point. He could have walked away, could have let the Titan feast and avoided this entire conversation. Instead, he'd charged in like he always did, seeing someone in danger and reacting on instinct. Old habits, old scars. The part of him that hadn't died in the eclipse, still trying to save people even though everyone he'd saved before had burned. "One question," Guts said finally. "These Titans, where do they come from?" Erwin and Levi exchanged a glance. Something passed between them, a question without words, an answer in silence. "We don't know," Erwin admitted. "They appeared 100 years ago. No one knows where, no one knows why. They just exist. Some are small, 3 to 4 meters. Others are 15 meters, like the one you fought. They don't need to eat, they don't digest. They just kill and consume and move on. No pattern, no intelligence, just hunger. But they can be killed. Yes, one weak point, the nape of the neck, cut 1 meter high, 10 centimeters deep, and they die. Cut anywhere else, they regenerate." Levi spoke from his position by the window. "We've been fighting them for a century, and that's all we know. No origin, no purpose. Just murder in giant form." Guts processed that. mindless killing machines that regenerated from any wound except one specific target. It reminded him of the Apostles' immortality, how they could only die if their behelit was destroyed or if they were killed in specific ways. These titans had the same kind of unnatural resilience. But Apostles were intelligent, cruel. They chose to hunt. These titans were just empty, vessels of destruction with nothing inside. You said they appeared 100 years ago? Guts said slowly, all at once. According to historical records, yes. One day they weren't there. The next, they were everywhere. Humanity retreated behind the walls and has been trapped ever since. Erwin watched him carefully. Why do you ask? Because things don't just appear. They're created, summoned, called. Guts thought of the eclipse, of the dimensional tear that had birthed the God Hand. Something made these titans, and if it made them once, it can make more. Erwin's expression sharpened. You think the titans were created deliberately, as weapons? I think nothing that unnatural happens by accident. Commander. Levi pushed off from the wall. If he's right, if the titans are weapons, then someone created them, which means there's an enemy we haven't found yet. Or an enemy we don't recognize, Erwin murmured. His mind was already racing. Guts could see it in his eyes, the way possibilities cascaded and reformed. If the titans are constructed, their weakness might be deliberate, a failsafe, or a limitation in their design. You're assuming whoever made them wanted them to be killable, Guts said. Perhaps. Or perhaps the nape weakness is structural, the only way to create a creature that large without it collapsing under its own weight. Erwin turned back to his desk, pulling out more reports. We've studied Titan anatomy for decades. They're impossibly light for their size. Their bodies generate extreme heat. They dissolve after death, leaving almost nothing behind. It's as if they're not fully real, not fully physical. Guts thought of the Titan dissolving in the street. The steam, the way its mass simply vanished, like it had never existed, like it was held together by something other than biology, like an apostle shedding its demon form. I need to see one alive, Guts said suddenly. A Titan, up close, not fighting, studying. Erwin's eyebrows rose. That's usually fatal. Not for me. You're that confident? Guts met his gaze. I've survived worse. For a long moment, Erwin studied him. Then, slowly, he nodded. The Survey Corps has a scheduled expedition beyond Walrose in 3 days. Long-range scouting formation, Titan observation and capture protocols. If you want to see Titans up close, that's your opportunity. He paused. But I have conditions. Of course you do. You travel with my squad, you follow formation protocols, and you share any information you learn about Titan anatomy or behavior. Erwin's voice hardened. In exchange, I'll give you supplies, equipment, and a place to stay until you figure out how to get back to wherever you came from. Assuming that's your goal. Guts considered it. 3 days. 1 expedition. He'd learn about these Titans, figure out what they really were, and decide if this world's problems were worth his attention. And if Erwin tried to cage him or use him, Guts would leave. Simple. No ODM gear? Guts said. I fight my way. Agreed. And I'm not joining your corps. This is temporary. Understood. And if your people get in my way during a fight, that's their problem. Erwin almost smiled. Captain Levi, make sure our guest has quarters and food. Brief him on formation protocols and Titan classifications. And for God's sake, find out if that sword has a sheath. Levi's expression suggested he'd rather fight another Titan, but he nodded. Follow me. Guts turned toward the door. then paused. One more thing. That Titan today, the 15-meter class. How common are they? Common enough, Levi said. We encounter them on most expeditions. Why? Because it moved like it had fought before. When I attacked, it adapted, tried different approaches. That's not mindless hunger, that's learned behavior. Erwin and Levi exchanged another look. This time, Guts saw concern beneath the calculation. Titans don't learn, Erwin said slowly. They operate on instinct, pure predatory drive. Then your understanding is wrong. Guts's eye narrowed. Because that thing knew I was dangerous after the first strike. It changed tactics, tried to crush me instead of grab me. That's not instinct, that's intelligence. He left before they could respond, following Levi into the corridor. Behind him, he heard Erwin's chair scrape as the commander sat down heavily. He's right. Levi's voice, quiet but carrying. I've seen abnormals adapt mid-fight. We just assumed it was random behavior. If it's not random... Erwin trailed off. Guts kept walking. He'd given them something to think about, something that would keep them distracted while he figured out this world's rules. Because one thing was certain. These Titans weren't natural. They were made, constructed, weaponized, and somewhere, the person who'd made them was watching. The brand of sacrifice remained silent on his neck. No demons, no apostles. But Guts had survived too long to believe in coincidence. He'd been pulled into this world for a reason. The Skull Knight's blade had cut through dimensions and dropped him here, specifically. Which meant somewhere in this hell of giant monsters and desperate humans, there was an answer. A connection. A reason. Guts intended to find it. Even if he had to cut through every Titan between here and the truth. The Survey Corps' barracks smelled like old leather, steel polish, and something else. Fear, maybe, or resignation. The scent of people who knew they were living on borrowed time. Guts had smelled it before in mercenary camps, in besieged fortresses, in the Band of the Hawk before everything went to hell. Levi led him to a small room on the second floor. Bed, desk, window overlooking the training yard. Spartan. Functional. The kind of space designed for someone who probably wouldn't need it long. Mess hall is downstairs. Serves at dawn and dusk. Showers are communal down the hall. Levi gestured vaguely. Don't touch anyone else's gear. Don't start fights. Don't... I've been in barracks before. Guts interrupted. Not like these. Levi's gray eyes fixed on him. Survey Corps soldiers are different. They've all lost people. They've all seen friends get eaten. Some of them deal with it better than others. You walk around with that sword, looking like you do, talking about fighting things worse than Titans. He paused. Some will see you as hope. Others will see you as a threat. A few will see you as competition. Let them. I'm not protecting you if someone starts something. Didn't ask you to. Levi studied him for a moment longer, then turned to leave. He stopped at the door. One more thing. The expedition in 3 days. It's not a training exercise. We're pushing into Titan territory, 30 kilometers beyond Walrose. Abnormals, 15-meter classes, maybe worse. People will die. If you slow us down or compromise the formation, I'll cut you loose myself. Fair enough. Levi left without another word. Guts closed the door and surveyed the room. Small, confined, but private. After years of sleeping in forests with one eye open, listening for the rustle of demons, it felt almost luxurious. He set the Dragonslayer against the wall and sat on the bed. The frame creaked under his weight, or maybe under the weight of the armor he still wore beneath his cloak. The Berserker Armor was always there, pressed against his skin, waiting. A beast in a cage, patient and hungry. Guts flexed his prosthetic hand. The mechanical fingers responded smoothly. The arm cannon was loaded. 3 bombs, 5 bolts, 1 cannonball. Enough to handle most situations. But he'd need to find a way to resupply eventually. This world's technology seemed advanced enough, different from what he knew, but functional. A knock at the door. Guts's hand went to his knife before he consciously processed the sound. Old instincts. Yeah. The door opened. A young woman stood there. Early 20s, brown hair tied back, wearing the Survey Corps uniform. Her eyes were hard, not cruel, just worn down by things she'd seen. "You're the one who killed the Titan in Trost," she said. Not a question. "Yeah." "Without ODM gear?" "Yeah." She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. Her hand rested on the blade at her hip, casual, practiced, ready. "I'm Petra Rao, Levi, Squad. I'm supposed to brief you on formation protocols and Titan classifications." Guts nodded slowly. "Levi sent you?" "He's busy explaining to Commander Irwin why he thinks you're either going to save us all or get half the Corps killed." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "Personally, I'm betting on the second one." Smart money. Petra pulled out the desk chair and sat backwards on it, arms folded over the back. Professional, efficient. So, formations. The Survey Corps uses a long-range scouting formation designed by Commander Irwin. It's a spread pattern, soldiers positioned at intervals to maximize visibility and minimize casualties. When someone spots a Titan, they fire a colored flare. Red means Titan spotted. Green means change direction. Black means abnormal. Abnormal? Titans that don't follow standard behavior patterns. Most Titans are attracted to large concentrations of humans. They'll walk toward cities, ignore small groups. Abnormals are different. They sprint, they jump, they target individuals. They're unpredictable. Petra's expression hardened. They're what kill most of us. Guts filed that away. Abnormals, intelligent Titans, or at least more intelligent than the standard models. The 15-meter class he'd fought had shown adaptive behavior. Maybe it had been an abnormal. Titan classifications, Petra continued. 3 to 4 meters, we call them standard class. Easy to kill if you're good, but they swarm. 7 to 15 meters, large class. Harder to kill, requires multiple strikes or perfect nape accuracy. Anything above 15 meters, we retreat and report. Not worth the risk. You've seen bigger than 15 meters? Petra's face went pale. For a second, just a second, something haunted flickered behind her eyes. Once, on an expedition 2 years ago, it was 50 meters, maybe more. It walked through our formation like we didn't exist. Crushed 20 soldiers before we could retreat. 50 meters. Guts imagined that size, that mass. Even the Dragonslayer might not be enough against something that massive. He'd need the Berserker Armor. Maybe even that wouldn't be enough. "Where is it now?" he asked. "Don't know. It disappeared beyond Wall Maria. We haven't seen it since." Petra stood up, pacing to the window. That's the thing about Titans. They're not organized. They don't coordinate. They just exist. Random encounters, random attacks. We can predict general behavior, but never specific movements. Random, Guts muttered. Or hidden. What? Nothing. He stood, walking to where the Dragonslayer leaned. His hand touched the worn grip, feeling the familiar texture. "This expedition, what's the real goal?" Petra turned from the window, eyeing him carefully. "Officially, long-range scouting and Titan observation. Unofficially," she hesitated. "I'm going either way. Might as well tell me." "We're looking for the basement. Guts raised an eyebrow. There's a doctor's house in Shiganshina district, the district where Wall Maria was breached 5 years ago. The doctor had a basement. His son claims there are secrets down there. Answers about the Titans, about where they came from. Petra's voice dropped. Commander Irwin thinks it's worth investigating, even if it costs lives. And you? I think it's insane. Shiganshina is crawling with Titans. We'd need to fight through dozens just to reach the district, then hold position long enough to search. The casualty rate would be... She shook her head. But we're soldiers. We follow orders. Guts heard the resignation in her voice, the acceptance. She knew the mission might kill her, and she'd go anyway because that's what soldiers did. He'd seen that same look in the Band of the Hawk. Good people following orders into hell because someone they trusted said it was necessary. It had gotten them all killed. Don't follow orders that'll get you killed, Guts said quietly. Petra laughed, sharp, bitter. That's what being in the Survey Corps means. Every order might get you killed. Every expedition is a suicide mission we happen to survive. You get used to it, or you transfer to the garrison and spend your life on wall duty. And if I told you there's another way, that you don't have to throw lives away, I'd say you don't understand how this works. Petra moved toward the door. We've been fighting Titans for 100 years. We've tried everything. The long-range formation is the only thing that gives us a chance. Without it, the casualty rate goes from 30% to 90%. She paused, hand on the door. Whatever you think you know, whatever monsters you fought before, Titans are different. They don't tire. They don't stop. They don't die unless you hit the nape. And there are thousands of them. She left before Guts could respond. The door clicked shut, and he was alone again. Thousands. He'd fought through armies before, had carved his way through hundreds of soldiers during the Band of the Hawk's campaigns. But those were men. Finite endurance, finite numbers, killable through conventional means. Titans regenerated, didn't need rest, didn't feel pain. An army that never stopped. Guts sat back down on the bed, his mind working through tactical problems. The Dragonslayer could kill them. He'd proven that. But one sword against thousands? Even he had limits. The Berserker Armor would extend those limits, push him beyond human endurance. But it would also destroy his body in the process. Use it too long and he'd be dead before the last Titan fell. He needed to understand them better, needed to see how they moved, how they thought, if they thought at all. The 15-meter class had adapted to his attacks. That suggested some level of intelligence. But Petra said most Titans were mindless, which meant there were two types: mindless drones and intelligent controllers, like apostles and the God Hand. Guts' jaw clenched. He was seeing patterns that might not exist, drawing connections between this world and his own because it was familiar. But what if he was right? What if the Titans were created by something similar to the God Hand? Some entity that commanded lesser monsters and used them as weapons. If that was true, then killing Titans was pointless. The real enemy was whoever, whatever, made them. A bell rang outside, deep and resonant. Guts moved to the window and looked out. The training yard had cleared. Soldiers were moving toward a large building on the western side of the compound. Mess hall? Dinner. His stomach reminded him he hadn't eaten since... whenever. Time was hard to track when you fell through dimensions. Guts grabbed his cloak and headed downstairs. The mess hall was loud. Dozens of conversations overlapping, the clatter of plates and utensils, occasional laughter that sounded forced. He grabbed a tray of something that looked like stew and bread and found a corner table away from the crowds. He'd barely taken the first bite when someone sat down across from him. Young, maybe 19. brown hair, bright eyes that tried to hide fear and didn't quite succeed. The kid wore a Survey Corps uniform that still looked new. Fresh recruit. "You're Guts, right?" the kid said. "The guy who killed the Titan without ODM gear?" Guts nodded, chewing. That's incredible. I'm Aaron Yeager." He stuck out his hand. Guts stared at it until Aaron awkwardly withdrew. "Sorry, we heard what happened in Trost. Everyone's talking about it. They're saying you cut through a Titan's arm like it was nothing, that you fought it hand to hand and won." It was stunned. Levi made the kill. Still. Aaron leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. "Do you think you could teach us? Teach the Survey Corps how to fight like that? Without ODM gear, I mean. If we could fight Titans on the ground, we wouldn't need the walls. We could take back everything we lost. We could..." "No." Aaron blinked. "What? I can't teach you what I do. It took decades. It requires strength you don't have. And it'd get most of you killed faster than the Titans would." Guts took another bite of stew. It was bland but edible. "You want to survive? Learn your ODM gear. Follow your formation. Don't try to be a hero." "But I'm not a hero." Guts met his gaze. "I'm a survivor. There's a difference." Aaron's jaw clenched. Guts recognized that expression. Wounded pride, frustrated idealism. This kid wanted to change the world, wanted to matter. Guts had seen that same fire in young soldiers before. It usually got them killed. "Aaron." Another voice, cold and controlled. A girl sat down next to Aaron. Black hair, intense eyes, a red scarf wrapped around her neck despite the warm hall. She looked at Guts with unconcealed suspicion. "Leave him alone." "Mikasa, I was just..." "You were bothering someone who doesn't want to talk." Her hand moved to rest on her blade, subtle but clear. "Let's go." Aaron looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Mikasa's expression stopped him. He stood reluctantly. "Sorry, I just thought..." "Never mind." They left. Guts watched them go, noting how Mikasa positioned herself between Aaron and potential threats, how her eyes constantly scanned the room. Protective, paranoid. She'd seen people die, probably people she cared about. The rest of dinner passed quietly. A few soldiers glanced his way, whispered to their companions, but no one else approached. Good. Guts finished eating and headed back to his room. The sun was setting, casting orange light through the window. Guts stood there, watching soldiers in the yard run drills with their ODM gear. They were skilled, launching, spinning, striking practice targets with precision. Years of training compressed into seconds of action. They were good. It wouldn't be enough. Guts thought about the expedition in 3 days. Thought about Petra's resignation, Aaron's desperation, Mikasa's protective fury. These people were fighting a war they couldn't win. 100 years of retreat, of casualties, of watching their world shrink behind walls while monsters waited outside. It reminded him of the final days of the Band of the Hawk. That same desperate energy, that same doomed determination. He should leave. Walk away before he got tangled in someone else's war. Before he started caring about people who were probably going to die anyway. But the brand wasn't bleeding. For the first time in years, he could sleep without demons tearing at him. Could rest without one hand on his sword. This world, for all its horror, didn't want him dead every single night. That was worth something. Maybe. Guts lay down on the bed, the Dragonslayer within arm's reach. The Berserker armor pressed against his skin, a constant weight. Outside, soldiers laughed and trained and pretended tomorrow wasn't another step toward death, and Guts, for the first time since the eclipse, slept without screaming. The next 2 days passed in a rhythm Guts remembered from his mercenary years. the strange calm before deployment, where soldiers tried to pretend they weren't counting down to violence. He spent the time watching, learning, staying out of the way. The Survey Corps was efficient, disciplined. Every soldier knew their role in the formation, knew the flare signals, knew how to kill Titans with surgical precision. But efficiency didn't hide the underlying fear. Guts saw it in how they maintained their ODM gear with obsessive care, how they checked and rechecked their blade supplies, how some wouldn't meet each other's eyes during meals. They were good soldiers going to die because their enemy was impossible. On the second evening, Guts found himself in the equipment storage, examining the ODM gear up close. The mechanism was ingenious. Gas-powered propulsion combined with cable launchers that let humans fly through three-dimensional space. The kind of innovation born from desperation. Thinking about learning, Levi's voice came from behind him. Guts didn't turn. Thinking about how fragile it is. Levi stepped into the storage room, his footsteps silent despite the concrete floor. He picked up one of the gas canisters, testing its weight. It saved more lives than any weapon in history. Before ODM gear, humanity couldn't fight Titans at all. We just ran and died. And now you fly and die. Now we die with a chance of killing them first. Levi set the canister down. The survival rate improved from 0% to 30%. I'll take those odds. Guts finally turned to face him. You've been watching me. You're an unknown element in a military operation. Of course I'm watching you. Levi's gray eyes were unreadable. You don't train. You don't practice. You just sit in your room or watch our drills. Either you're confident you don't need preparation, or you're planning to run the moment things get dangerous. I don't run. Then what are you doing? Learning how you think, how you move, how you fight. Guts gestured toward the yard where soldiers were finishing evening drills. Your people are skilled, fast, precise, but they're fighting the wrong way. Levi's expression hardened. Explain. You target the nape, one specific weak point. It's effective, but it requires perfect positioning and perfect timing. Miss by a few centimeters and the Titan regenerates. Miss your cable shot and you're dead. Guts crossed his arms. You're fighting like assassins when you should be fighting like butchers. Butchers. Overwhelming force. Multiple simultaneous attacks. Don't give them time to regenerate. Hit them so hard and so fast they can't recover. Guts thought of fighting apostles, of how he'd learned to stack damage faster than their healing could compensate. Your ODM gear gives you speed. Use it for sustained assault, not surgical strikes. That's suicide. The longer you engage a Titan, the more likely you are to make a mistake. The longer you try for a perfect shot, the more soldiers die waiting for an opening. Guts met his gaze. How many soldiers have you lost because they were lining up the perfect nape strike while a Titan crushed their squad mates? Levi's jaw tightened. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Tactics born from desperation. Guts continued. The nape strike works, so you perfected it. Built your entire combat doctrine around it. But it's not the only way to kill them. You've killed one Titan. One. I've killed more than I can count. Levi's voice remained flat, but ice crept into it. Don't lecture me on Titan combat. I'm not lecturing. I'm telling you what I see. Guts turned back to the ODM gear. Your formation, your tactics, they're designed to minimize losses, not maximize kills. You're playing defense in a war where defense means slow extinction. And you think you can do better? I think I can kill them differently. Whether that's better? Guts shrugged. We'll find out tomorrow. Levi was silent for a long moment. Then, Erwin thinks you're hiding something, some secret about what you are or where you're from. He thinks it's connected to the Titans somehow. Erwin thinks a lot of things. Are you connected to the Titans? Guts looked at him. Really looked. This wasn't idle curiosity. Levi was asking because he needed to know if the man standing next to him tomorrow might be a threat. It was the same calculation Guts would make. No, Guts said simply. I've never seen a Titan before 2 days ago. Whatever they are, wherever they came from, it's got nothing to do with me. Then why are you here? Why fall into our world? I didn't choose to fall. Something pulled me through. Guts thought of the Skull Knight's spatial blade, the tear in reality. But I'm here now. Might as well see what these Titans really are before I figure out how to leave. And if you can't leave? Guts' hand moved to the Dragonslayer's grip. Then I'll survive, like always. Levi studied him for another moment, then nodded slowly. Formation briefing is at dawn. Don't be late. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. That armor you wear under your cloak, what is it? Insurance. Against what? Against losing control. Guts met his eyes. There's something inside me. Something that wants to fight, to kill, to never stop until everything is dead. The armor feeds that, makes me stronger, faster. But if I wear it too long? He trailed off. You become like them, Levi finished quietly. A monster wearing human skin. Something like that. Levi nodded slowly. Don't put it on unless you have to. And if you do, his hand moved to his blades. I'll be watching. He left without another word. Guts stood alone in the equipment storage, surrounded by the tools humanity had built to fight the impossible. Fragile cables and compressed gas and precisely sharpened steel. It was clever, desperate, insufficient, but it was all they had. Dawn came, cold and gray. Guts stood in the assembly yard with 60 other Survey Corps soldiers, listening to Erwin outline the expedition plan, the long-range scouting formation, the flare signals, the retreat protocols. All of it delivered in that calm, measured voice that made suicide sound reasonable. Petra stood nearby, checking her blade supply for the third time. Aaron and Mikasa were positioned with the other new recruits, kept toward the center of the formation, protected. Smart. Green soldiers shouldn't be on the edges where Titans struck first. Levi commanded the center squad. Elite soldiers, each one a veteran who'd survived multiple expeditions. They moved with quiet confidence, no wasted motion, no nervous energy. These were the survivors, the ones who'd learned not to hope too hard, because hope was expensive. Guts. Erwin approached, his blue eyes sharp in the dawn light. You'll ride with Levi's squad. Stay in formation unless you spot a Titan. If you engage, you do so alone. I won't risk squad cohesion on experimental tactics. Fine. And Guts? Erwin's voice dropped. If you see something we don't, some weakness, some pattern, you report it immediately. That's the price of coming along. I'll tell you what matters. That's not... Erwin paused, seeming to reconsider pushing the point. Just don't get my soldiers killed. The gates opened with a groan of metal and stone. Beyond them lay open territory, grassland stretching to distant forests, beautiful and empty and deadly. Somewhere out there, Titans waited. The formation moved out in stages, spreading across the landscape like a spear thrust into enemy territory. Guts rode near the center, mounted on a horse that seemed nervous about carrying someone his size. The Dragonslayer was strapped to the horse's flank, wrapped in cloth to avoid spooking the other animals. They rode in silence. The only sounds were hoofbeats and wind and the occasional creak of ODM gear. The soldiers scanned the horizon, hands ready on flare guns. 2 hours passed. Nothing. 3 hours. Still nothing. Then, distant on the eastern flank, a red flare arced into the sky. "Titan spotted east quadrant," someone shouted. The formation shifted smoothly, soldiers firing green flares to signal course correction. They angled away from the threat, maintaining distance. Standard protocol: avoid engagement unless necessary. The goal was reconnaissance, not combat. Another red flare, western flank this time, then another, north. Too many, too fast. Guts saw Irwin's expression harden. Levi's hand moved to his blades. This wasn't normal Titan behavior. They shouldn't be converging this quickly, this deliberately. A black flare shot up from the south. Abnormal. "All squads, defensive formation." Irwin's voice cut across the distance. "Prepare for..." The Titan burst from the tree line at a full sprint. It was a 10-meter class, lanky and twisted, moving with horrifying speed on all fours like some grotesque ape. Its eyes were different from the mindless Titan in Trost. These were focused, tracking the formation with predatory intelligence. Abnormal. It charged straight for the center, straight for the command squad, moving faster than horses could run. Soldiers scattered, cables firing as they launched into the air. The abnormal didn't slow. It leaped, clearing 15 meters in a single bound, and came down on top of two soldiers, still mounting their escape. The screaming was brief. "Engage!" Levi barked. His squad moved like a precision instrument. 4 soldiers attacked simultaneously from different angles, blades flashing toward the nape. The abnormal twisted midair, impossible flexibility, and swatted one soldier out of the sky. She hit the ground hard enough to crack bone. 3 blades found purchase in the nape. The abnormal shuddered, began to fall. Then it regenerated. The nape sealed itself in seconds, steam pouring from the wound. The abnormal spun, catching another soldier with its teeth. Blood sprayed. More screaming. "It's healing too fast," Petra shouted. "Multiple strikes aren't working." The abnormal was learning, adapting. Every attack pattern Levi's squad used, it countered faster. This wasn't mindless hunger. This was intelligence. This was wrong. Guts dismounted in one smooth motion. The Dragonslayer came free from its wrapping, the familiar weight settling into his hands like coming home. Around him, soldiers were dying. Levi was shouting orders. Irwin was calling for retreat. But Guts was already moving. The abnormal saw him coming, those intelligent eyes tracking his approach, and lunged. Fast. Faster than the 15-meter class in Trost. Its jaws opened wide, going for the kill. Guts didn't dodge. He planted his feet and swung. The Dragonslayer met the abnormal's jaw with 400 pounds of momentum behind it. The blade sheared through bone and muscle, separating the lower jaw from the skull. The abnormal's momentum carried it forward, but its attack was ruined. Its bite turned into a spray of blood and steam. It tried to regenerate mid-fall. Guts didn't give it time. He was on top of it before it hit the ground, Dragonslayer raised overhead. The blade came down like a guillotine, cleaving straight through the abnormal's spine at the shoulders. The upper body separated from the lower. Still, it tried to regenerate. Guts brought the blade down again, and again, and again. Each strike was massive, brutal, overwhelming the regeneration through sheer destructive force. He carved through the nape, through the chest, through anything that tried to heal. By the 5th strike, the abnormal stopped moving. By the 7th, it was dissolving. Guts stood over the steaming corpse, breathing hard, blood and steam coating the Dragonslayer. Around him, the Survey Corps had gone silent. 60 soldiers staring at what had just happened. He'd killed it in under 10 seconds. "Form up." Levi's voice cut through the silence. "Check casualties. Get the wounded on horses." Soldiers scrambled to obey. Petra approached the dissolving corpse cautiously, her expression shocked. It was regenerating from nape strikes. Multiple nape strikes. I've never seen that before. It was learning your tactics, Guts said, wiping blood from his face. Every time you struck the nape, it adapted. Got faster at healing that specific injury. That's not possible, Petra whispered. Titans don't learn. They don't adapt. That one did. Guts looked toward the tree line where the abnormal had emerged. And if one can do it, others can too. Erwin rode up, his face grim. 3 casualties. 1 dead, 2 critically injured. We need to retreat and... Another flare. Red. Then another. Then 5 more, all around them. They were surrounded. The Titans emerged from every direction. Not the shambling, mindless creatures Guts had heard described. These moved with purpose, 6 of them, ranging from 8 to 12 meters, converging on the Survey Corps formation with coordinated precision. They didn't wander. They didn't stop to stare vacantly. They hunted. This is wrong, Levi muttered, his blades already drawn. Titans don't coordinate. They don't ambush. They do now, Guts said. Erwin's tactical mind was already working, his eyes tracking each Titan's approach vector. Levi, take your squad and the Eastern Titans. Dirk's squad handles the West. Everyone else protect the wounded and prepare for retreat on my signal. Commander, we should retreat now, someone started. We retreat, they chase. We're faster on horseback, but not by much. We need to thin their numbers first. Erwin's voice remained calm, but Guts heard the calculation beneath it. How many lives to spend? How many soldiers to sacrifice so the rest could escape? The closest Titan, a 12-meter class with grotesquely long arms, charged. Levi's squad launched immediately, cables firing in perfect synchronization. They swarmed it from 3 angles, blades flashing toward the nape. The Titan's hand swatted through the air. 2 soldiers barely dodged. A third wasn't fast enough. The impact sent him spinning, cables tangled, crashing into the ground with bone-breaking force. He didn't get up. It's tracking us, Petra shouted, reading our cable trajectories. Another Titan, this one 10 meters with a lipless grin, sprinted toward the cluster of wounded soldiers. Aaron and Mikasa's squad moved to intercept, but they were too far, too slow. Guts ran. His boots hammered the grass as he closed the distance. The Titan's vacant eyes fixed on the wounded, its mouth opening in anticipation. 20 meters. 15. Guts could hear soldiers screaming, could hear the Titan's footfalls shaking the earth. 10 meters. The Titan's hand reached down. Guts leaped. The Dragonslayer came around in a horizontal arc, catching the Titan's forearm mid-reach. The blade carved through flesh and bone, severing the hand completely. Blood sprayed. The Titan stumbled, its balance disrupted. Guts landed, rolled, and came up inside the Titan's guard. This close, he could see the details. The too hot skin steaming in the cool air, the way muscles moved beneath the translucent flesh. The eyes tracking him with something that wasn't quite intelligence, but wasn't quite mindless either. It was trying to grab him with its remaining hand. Guts drove the Dragonslayer straight up through the Titan's chin, the blade punching through the skull and into the brain. The creature seized, its movements becoming spastic and uncontrolled. Before it could recover, Guts wrenched the blade free and carved horizontally through the nape. The Titan fell like a puppet with cut strings. "Behind you!" Mikasa's voice, sharp and urgent. Guts spun. Another Titan, 8 meters, was charging him while he was exposed. Too close to dodge. Too fast to... Mikasa slammed into it from above, both blades driving into its eyes. The Titan recoiled, blind and flailing. Aaron hit it from the side, his strike cutting deep into the neck, but missing the nape by inches. The Titan's hand swept toward him. Guts was there first. The Dragonslayer took the Titan's arm off at the elbow. Mikasa recovered, launched again, and this time her blades found the nape. The Titan collapsed, steam pouring from its dissolving corpse. "Thanks," Eren panted, landing beside Guts. His face was pale, eyes wide with adrenaline. "That was... Move!" Guts shoved him aside as another Titan's hand crashed down where they'd been standing. This one was 15 meters. Massive. Its eyes were different from the others, more focused, more aware. It looked directly at Guts, and something passed across its face that might have been recognition. It knew he was dangerous. The Titan moved faster than something that size should be able to move. Its fist came down like a meteor. Guts rolled left. The ground cratered. Debris exploded outward. A chunk of earth caught Guts' shoulder, spinning him. He recovered, but the Titan was already reaching for him with its other hand. Cables wrapped around the Titan's wrist, yanking it off course. Levi hung from the cables, his expression cold and focused. "Now would be a good time for that insurance you mentioned. The Berserker Armor." Guts felt it pressing against his skin, eager and hungry. It wanted out, wanted to fight, wanted to kill everything until nothing remained. He'd sworn not to use it unless absolutely necessary. Sworn to keep the beast caged. But the 15-meter Titan was pulling Levi closer, trying to crush him. Petra's squad was being overwhelmed by 2 more Titans approaching from the west. Soldiers were dying while he hesitated. Damn it. Guts reached up and touched the armor beneath his cloak. The metal responded instantly, recognizing his intent. Black plates emerged from beneath his clothing, spreading across his body like living shadow. The helmet formed around his head, a snarling beast skull with horns like a demon. The pain came immediately. The armor's curse dug into his flesh, overriding his body's natural limiters. His muscles screamed as the armor pushed them beyond human capacity. His vision sharpened to predatory focus. His heartbeat thundered in his ears like war drums. The beast awakened. Guts moved before he consciously decided to move. Speed that shouldn't be possible. The Dragonslayer felt weightless in his hands now, the massive blade swinging with supernatural force. He cleared the distance to the 15-meter Titan in 3 bounds. The Titan tried to stomp him. Guts dodged, not away, but toward it, inside its reach. The Dragonslayer carved through its ankle, cutting muscle and tendon. The Titan toppled forward. Guts was already climbing, using the falling body as a ramp, running up its spine toward the nape. The Titan tried to reach back, tried to grab him. Too slow. Guts planted his feet on its shoulder blade and drove the Dragonslayer down through the nape with enough force to punch completely through the Titan's neck. The blade emerged from the front of the throat, dripping blood and steam. The Titan died, still trying to regenerate. Guts kicked off as it fell, the Berserker Armor's enhanced strength launching him toward the next target. Another 12-meter class, this one reaching for a wounded soldier on the ground. Guts hit it mid-spine, the Dragonslayer's point driving into its back like a spear. He rode it down as it collapsed, tearing the blade free and carving through the nape before the Titan even understood it was under attack. 2 more Titans remained. They were retreating now, backing away from the formation. Some instinct, some remnant of survival programming, told them this human was wrong. This human was death. Guts pursued. The armor sang in his veins, urging him forward. Kill them all. Don't stop until everything is dead. His vision was narrowing, focusing only on targets, only on threats to eliminate. Guts! Levi's voice cut through the bloodlust. Stand down. They're retreating. Stand down. The words registered, but made no sense. The enemy was running. That meant chase. That meant kill. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Guts spun, Dragonslayer rising to strike. Levi stood there, blades ready but not attacking. His gray eyes were cold and steady. "Take off the armor, now. They're still alive." Guts' voice came out wrong, distorted by the helmet, by the beast wearing his skin. "Still dangerous." "They're leaving. We've won." Levi's grip tightened. "I said stand down. That's an order." "I don't take your orders." "No, but you made a promise." Levi's eyes never wavered. "You said the armor makes you lose control. Prove you're still in control. Take it off." The beast howled in his mind, demanded he fight, demanded he pursue, demanded he kill this small man who dared issue commands. The armor fed that rage, amplified it, made it feel right and necessary. But underneath, buried deep, Guts' consciousness clawed for purchase. Levi was right. The Titans were retreating. The immediate threat was over. If he kept fighting, kept chasing, he'd cross the line from soldier to monster. He'd done that before. After the eclipse, wearing this armor, he'd killed humans who'd gotten in his way. Innocent people, casualties of his rage. He'd sworn not to let it happen again. Slowly, fighting every instinct the armor fed him, Guts reached up and touched the helmet. The metal resisted, wanting to stay active, wanting to keep fighting. He forced it anyway. The helmet retracted. The chest plate followed. The gauntlets. The greaves. Within seconds, the Berserker armor was gone. Hidden again beneath his clothing. The pain hit immediately. His muscles felt shredded. His joints screamed. Blood trickled from his nose, his ears, the corners of his eyes. He'd only worn the armor for 3 minutes, maybe 4. Already his body was paying the price. Guts dropped to one knee, breathing hard. The Dragonslayer's point dug into the earth, supporting his weight. "How long can you wear it?" Levi asked quietly. "Depends. Maybe 10 minutes before serious damage. 15 before I can't stop anymore." Guts wiped blood from his face. 20 and I'm dead, or too far gone to come back. "Then use it carefully. We can't afford to lose you to your own weapon." Guts looked up. Levi was watching him with something that might have been respect, or might have been calculation. Hard to tell with those eyes. Around them, soldiers were regrouping, counting casualties, tending wounds. The Titans had killed 5 more, wounded 8. But the formation had held. They'd survived. Erwin rode up, his face grim but satisfied. 4 Titans killed, 2 retreated. 17 total casualties, 8 critical. We're pulling back to the wall. He looked at Guts. "That armor, what is it?" "A curse," Guts said simply. "A useful curse. With that kind of power, you could..." "No." Guts stood, his legs shaking but holding. "The armor isn't a tool. It's a last resort. Use it too much and it kills me. Use it wrong and I become the thing we're fighting." Erwin studied him for a long moment. Then, "Noted. Mount up, we're moving." The retreat was orderly, but tense. Soldiers kept glancing back toward the tree line, toward where the 2 Titans had disappeared. They'd expected mindless monsters. Instead, they'd faced creatures that learned, that adapted, that coordinated. Everything they thought they knew about Titans was wrong. Guts rode in silence, his body screaming protest with every movement. The Berserker Armor's price was always steep. But what bothered him more than the pain was the Titans' behavior. They'd ambushed the formation. They'd coordinated their attack. The 15-meter class had recognized him as a threat and focused on him specifically. That wasn't instinct. That was intelligence. And if these Titans were intelligent, then someone or something was controlling them. Petra rode up beside him, her face pale. Those Titans, they were working together, planning. That's never happened before. "First time for everything," Guts muttered. "No, you don't understand. In 100 years of fighting Titans, They've never shown coordination, never ambushed, never retreated strategically. She looked at him. What changed? Guts met her gaze. I did. What? They adapted to your tactics because they've fought you for a century. They know how Survey Corps soldiers move, how you attack. But me? Guts gestured to the Dragonslayer. I'm new, different. So they changed their behavior to counter a new threat. That would mean they're being controlled, directed by something intelligent. Yeah, it would. Petra's hand tightened on her reins. If someone is controlling the Titans, then this war isn't about, survival. It's about extermination. Guts looked toward the distant walls. Someone wants humanity dead, and they're using Titans as weapons. The implications settled over them like a shroud. For 100 years, humanity had believed the Titans were a natural disaster, an inexplicable plague. But if Guts was right, if someone was controlling them, then everything changed. This wasn't a fight for survival anymore. It was a war, and somewhere beyond the walls, hidden among the Titans or wearing human skin, the real enemy waited. The Survey Corps returned to headquarters in the failing light, carrying their dead on horses that moved with exhausted, mechanical precision. 17 casualties. The worst expedition loss in 6 months. Soldiers filed past in silence, their faces hollow with the particular emptiness that came from watching friends die. Guts dismounted in the stable yard, every muscle in his body screaming. The Berserker Armor's price was always paid in full. His ribs felt cracked, his joints burned, blood crusted his nostrils and the corners of his eyes. He'd gotten off light, only 4 minutes in the armor. He'd survive. The 17 soldiers being carried to the morgue wouldn't. Medical bay, now. Levi appeared beside him, his uniform still pristine despite the battle. How the hell did he stay so clean? You're bleeding internally. I can see it in how you move. I'll be fine. That wasn't a suggestion. Guts was too tired to argue. He followed Levi through corridors that seemed longer than before, each step an exercise in controlled agony. The medical bay smelled like alcohol and copper. 3 doctors moved between beds where the wounded lay. Soldiers with broken bones, torn muscles, severe lacerations from near misses with tightened teeth. One soldier was missing both legs below the knee. He stared at the ceiling and didn't blink. A doctor, middle-aged woman with gray streaks in her hair, pointed Guts toward an examination table. Sit, stripped to the waist. Guts complied, peeling off his cloak and shirt. The doctor's eyes widened when she saw the damage. His torso was a landscape of bruises, some fresh from today, others old and yellow. Scars crisscrossed his chest and back, sword wounds, claw marks, burns. The brand of sacrifice stood out on his neck like an accusation. What happened to you? She breathed. Long story. She pressed fingers against his ribs. Guts hissed but didn't pull away. 3 cracked ribs, severe muscle strain throughout your back and shoulders, signs of internal bleeding, minor but present. She looked at him. You should be in a bed for a week. I'll sleep it off. That's not... He'll be fine. Levi interrupted from the doorway. Wrap the ribs. Give him something for the pain. He's too stubborn to stay in bed anyway. The doctor muttered something about soldiers and death wishes, but began wrapping his ribs with practiced efficiency. She gave him a bottle of pills, something for pain and inflammation, and sent him away with stern warnings he'd ignore. Levi led him to the officers' quarters, to a small room that served as a combination office and strategy center. A table covered in maps, reports stacked on every surface, a single chair that looked like it never got used. Irwin was already there, standing by the window, staring out at nothing. He turned when they entered, and Guts saw something new in those calculating blue eyes. Fear, not panic, not terror. Just the quiet fear of a man who'd realized the rules of reality had changed and he didn't know the new ones. "Close the door," Erwin said quietly. Levi did. The three of them stood in silence for a moment, the weight of what they'd seen settling like lead in the air. "Tell me I'm wrong," Erwin said finally. "Tell me those Titans were just an unusual cluster of abnormals behaving erratically." "You're not wrong," Guts said. "They were coordinated, intelligent. Someone or something is controlling them. For 100 years, we've believed the Titans were a mindless plague. Every military doctrine, every tactical framework, every defense strategy is built on that assumption." Erwin's voice remained controlled, but tension crackled beneath it. "If that assumption is false, then everything you've built is useless," Guts finished. "Your formations work because Titans are predictable. They swarm toward humans. They don't coordinate. They don't retreat. But if someone's controlling them, they can adapt, learn, counter every tactic you develop." Levi's jaw tightened. "The military police will never believe this. They'll say we're making excuses for a failed expedition, that we're paranoid." "Let them think that," Erwin said. "If I'm right, if Titans are being controlled, then we're not just fighting monsters. We're fighting an enemy with human-level intelligence. Maybe superhuman intelligence." He turned to Guts. "You said you fought things worse than Titans. Were those things controlled?" Guts thought of the God Hand, of the Eclipse, of apostles serving masters who commanded from dimensional thrones. "Yeah, by creatures that made Titans look like children's toys." "And how did you fight them?" "I didn't fight the army. I went for the commanders." Guts met Erwin's gaze. "You can kill every Titan in existence, and it won't matter if whoever's making them can just create more. You need to find the source, the person or thing giving orders. And if that source is beyond the walls, in Titan territory, then you go into Titan territory." Erwin smiled, cold and humorless. "That's been my plan from the beginning. The basement in Shiganshina, the secrets Aaron's father left behind. I've always believed answers were out there, beyond the walls." He moved to the map table, pointing to a location marked in red. "Shiganshina district, where Wall Maria fell 5 years ago, where humanity lost a third of its territory, and where, according to Aaron Yeager, his father's house contains information about the Titans, about the world beyond the walls." Guts studied the map. Shiganshina was 30 kilometers beyond Wall Rose, deep in Titan territory. Dozens of them would be swarming the ruins. "You want to mount an expedition there," Guts said. "Reclaim the district and search the basement." "I want to reclaim humanity's future. Whatever's in that basement, it's important enough that Aaron's father, a man who knew things about Titans that no one else did, hid it there, protected it." Erwin's finger tapped the map. "But reaching Shiganshina requires fighting through Titan-infested territory, requires holding the district long enough to search. And now, knowing that Titans might be intelligent and coordinated." He looked up. The casualty projection just went from 30% to 60%. "So don't go." "Not going means abandoning the only lead we have, means accepting that humanity will slowly die behind these walls." Erwin's voice hardened. "I've sacrificed thousands of soldiers for this goal. I won't stop now." Levi shifted uncomfortably. "Commander, if the casualty rate is that high, then we make sure every death counts." Erwin straightened. "We'll need months to prepare. Training specifically for intelligent Titan behavior. Contingency plans for coordinated attacks, and..." He looked at Guts. "We'll need you." "No. Your armor makes you strong enough to face multiple Titans simultaneously. You could..." I said no. Guts' voice cut like iron. I came on this expedition to learn about Titans. I learned. They're weapons. Someone's controlling them. That's not my problem. Humanity's extinction isn't your problem? I didn't say that. Guts stood, his ribs protesting. But I'm not a soldier in your army. I'm not a piece on your chessboard. And I sure as hell am not dying for someone else's grand vision. The temperature in the room dropped. Erwin's expression went cold. Truly cold. The kind of cold that came from a man calculating acceptable losses. You think I want to sacrifice my soldiers? Erwin's voice was quiet. Dangerous. You think I enjoy sending people to die? Every expedition, I watch good soldiers get torn apart. Every mission, I make decisions that kill people who trusted me. And I do it because if I don't, humanity has no future. Griffith said the same thing. Guts replied flatly. He sacrificed everything for his dream. His soldiers, his friends, me. His hand moved unconsciously to the brand of sacrifice. And in the end, his dream cost more than anyone should pay. I'm not this Griffith. No. You're willing to accept 60% casualties. That's 36 soldiers, if you take 60 on the mission. 36 people with families, friends, lives, all dead so you can check a basement. Guts moved toward the door. Find another way, or find someone else to be your weapon. He left before Erwin could respond. The corridor outside was dark, lit only by oil lamps that cast dancing shadows. Soldiers passed, some nodding respectfully, others giving him wide berth. The man who fought Titans without ODM gear. The man in the cursed armor. The man who might save them, or might be just another monster wearing human skin. Guts found his room and collapsed on the bed. Pain radiated from every part of his body. The Berserker Armor had given him strength, but it always took more than it gave. He'd be useless for at least a day, maybe 2. A knock at the door. Go away. The door opened anyway. Aaron stepped in, his young face serious. Mikasa stood behind him, her hand resting on her blade, as always. We need to talk, Aaron said. No, we don't. Please. Aaron closed the door. I heard what you told Commander Erwin, about not being a weapon, about someone named Griffith sacrificing people for a dream. He sat on the floor, cross-legged, looking up at Guts with desperate intensity. Tell me what happened. Tell me what made you like this. Guts stared at him. This kid with fire in his eyes and vengeance in his heart. This soldier who'd barely survived one expedition and still wanted to charge at Titans. He reminded Guts of himself, back when he'd been young and stupid and believed fighting hard enough could fix everything. You don't want to know, Guts said quietly. I do. Because, Aaron's voice cracked. Because I have the same fire, the same anger. My mother was eaten by a Titan 5 years ago. I watched it happen. Watched her die while I couldn't do anything. And I swore I'd kill every Titan, all of them, no matter what it cost. That's not vengeance, that's suicide. Maybe, but it's all I have. Aaron looked down at his hands. The commanders are talking about retaking Wal Maria, about pushing to Shiganshina. They're saying it's the only way to learn the truth about Titans, about the world. And I want to go, want to fight. But he met Guts' eye. You're telling Commander Erwin not to go. You're saying the cost is too high, so I need to know, are you right? Should we stop? Or should we fight no matter how many die? Mikasa's hand tightened on her blade. She was watching Guts with unveiled hostility, ready to draw if he said the wrong thing, if he tried to poison Aaron against fighting. Guts sat up slowly, pain shooting through his ribs. I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to hate it. Your vengeance? Your need to kill every Titan? It's not about justice. It's not about protecting humanity. It's about making the pain stop, making yourself feel like you're doing something instead of just suffering. Aaron's jaw clenched. You don't. I watched everyone I cared about die. Guts continued, his voice flat. Watched them get torn apart by demons while I couldn't save them. Watched the person I trusted most betray everything we'd built. And afterward, I spent years hunting those demons, killing them, telling myself it mattered, that vengeance would fill the hole they'd left. He leaned forward. It didn't. Vengeance doesn't bring anyone back, doesn't undo what happened. It just makes you empty inside until killing is all you have left. So you're saying I should give up? Forget my mother? Stop fighting? No. I'm saying pick your battles. Fight smart, not angry. Don't throw your life away because you're in pain. Guts gestured toward the window, toward the world beyond. Your commander, Erwin, wants to sacrifice soldiers for answers. Maybe those answers are worth it. Maybe they're not. But if you go on that mission, go because you choose to. Because you've weighed the cost and accepted it. Don't go because you're running from grief. Aaron was silent for a long moment. Then, what if grief is all I have? Then you're already dead. You just don't know it yet. The words hung in the air like a sentence. Mikasa's expression darkened, but she didn't draw. Aaron looked like he'd been struck, his eyes wide and wounded. Finally, he stood. Thank you for your honesty. His voice was hollow. Even if I hate what you said. He left. Mikasa lingered at the door, her cold eyes boring into Guts. If he dies because of what you said, if he hesitates at the wrong moment, I'll kill you. Get in line. She left without another word. Guts lay back down, staring at the ceiling. He'd told Aaron the truth. Whether it helped or hurt, that was the kid's problem now. Outside, soldiers moved through the compound, training, preparing, believing that if they just fought hard enough, sacrificed enough, they'd win. It was the same lie every army told itself. Guts had believed it once, had followed Griffith's dream, had trusted that sacrifice meant something. The eclipse had taught him otherwise. He closed his eye and tried to sleep. The brand of sacrifice remained silent on his neck. No demons, no apostles, just the ghosts of everyone he'd failed, whispering in the dark. Tomorrow he'd decide. Stay and help these desperate soldiers, or find a way back to his own hell. Tonight, he just wanted the pain to stop. 3 weeks passed like a slow bleed. Guts spent the time recovering, watching, and learning everything he could about this caged world. The Survey Corps reorganized after their losses. New recruits trained frantically, veterans shared hard-earned wisdom, and Erwin planned his next move with the patience of a man playing a game measured in lives. The expedition to Shiganshina was being prepared, slowly, methodically. Erwin was recruiting every available soldier, requisitioning supplies, building contingencies for intelligent Titan behavior. The casualty projections kept climbing, 60%, then 65, then 70. He was planning to sacrifice half his force for answers in a basement. Guts avoided the planning sessions, avoided Erwin's calculating stares, avoided the looks soldiers gave him, half hope, half fear, wondering if the man with the giant sword would save them or watch them die. But he couldn't avoid the news that came on the 21st day. Wall Rose had been breached. Titans were inside. The alarm bells shattered the pre-dawn silence. Guts was awake before the first clang faded, the Dragonslayer in his hands by pure instinct. Outside his window, soldiers scrambled across the compound. Some still pulling on uniforms, others already mounted and racing toward the walls. Levi kicked open Guts' door without knocking. Titans inside a wall rose. Multiple sightings. Village of Ragako is gone. 300 civilians just gone. No bodies, no blood, just empty. His face was carved from stone. We're mobilizing every squad. You're either coming or staying out of the way. Guts was already moving, strapping on his gear. How many Titans? At least a dozen confirmed, maybe more. Levi's voice was tight. This shouldn't be possible. No one saw a breach. No one heard the wall crack. They're just inside. Like they appeared from nowhere. Like they'd been created inside the walls. The thought hit Guts like a fist. If Titans were weapons, if someone was controlling them, then maybe they didn't need to breach the walls. Maybe they could create Titans from within. Turn humans into monsters. Like the Behelit. Like apostles. Where's the nearest sighting? Guts asked, following Levi into the corridor. Castle Utgard. Survey Corps recruits are trapped there with a veteran squad. We're en route to extract them, but it's a 4-hour ride. Levi's jaw clenched. They might not have 4 hours. The compound erupted into organized chaos. Horses were saddled in minutes. Soldiers checked their ODM gear with shaking hands. Erwin stood in the center of the yard, dividing forces, assigning objectives, his voice cutting through the panic like a blade. Levi Squad, you're heading to Utgard. Hang Squad, investigate Ragako. Find out what happened to those civilians. Misha's Squad, you're on perimeter containment. He spotted Guts. You? With Levi. Not a request, not an order. Just a statement of where Guts would be most useful. Guts didn't argue. He mounted, the horse protesting his weight again, and fell in with Levi's squad. Petra was there, her face pale but determined. Aaron and Mikasa rode nearby, both wearing expressions of controlled fury. They rode hard through the countryside, pushing the horses to their limits. The sun rose slowly, painting the grasslands in blood-red light. In the distance, dark shapes moved against the horizon. Titans. More than a dozen, they clustered around a stone tower that rose from the plains like a broken tooth, Castle Utgard, an ancient fortress now serving as an emergency shelter. Smoke rose from its upper levels. Soldiers were visible on the walls, firing cables, engaging Titans in desperate holding actions. They won't last another hour, Petra said quietly. Then we have 30 minutes. Levi urged his horse faster. Standard formation. Guts, you're going for the largest concentrations. Draw them away from the tower. We'll handle precision kills. The plan was simple, brutal. Use Guts as bait while Levi's squad picked off distracted Titans. It would work if Guts could survive being swarmed. Big if. They closed to within a kilometer. The Titans noticed, their vacant eyes tracking the approaching horses. Several began moving toward them. A 10-meter class, 2 8-meter classes, a cluster of smaller ones. Now, Levi shouted. His squad split left and right, flanking wide. Guts charged straight forward, the Dragonslayer coming off his shoulder. He didn't slow as he approached the first Titan, a 10-meter class with a distended belly. It reached for him with both hands. Guts stood in his stirrups and swung. The Dragonslayer carved through both the Titan's arms at the elbows. Limbs fell away, steaming. The Titan stumbled, confused. Guts didn't stop to finish it. Levi's squad could handle a stunned target. He was already targeting the next one. An 8-meter class sprinted toward him on all fours, fast and aggressive. Abnormal behavior. Guts yanked his horse left, causing the Titan to overshoot. As it passed, he brought the Dragonslayer down on its spine, severing it at the lower back. The Titan collapsed, its legs useless. Still, it tried to crawl forward, regeneration working on the massive wound. Petra dropped from above, both blades sinking into its nape. Nice setup. They worked in brutal synchronization. Guts crippling and distracting, Levi's squad executing. within 5 minutes, 4 Titans were dead. The others began backing away from the tower, focusing on the new threat. Good. That's what Guts wanted. Draw them away. Give the trapped soldiers breathing room. A 15-meter class emerged from behind the tower. This one was different, covered in dark fur, moving on all fours with ape-like grace. Its eyes were intelligent, focused, tracking Guts with predatory intensity. Beast Titan. The name came from nowhere, from some instinct Guts didn't understand. But looking at this creature, he knew it was different. This wasn't a mindless weapon. This was a commander. The Beast Titan opened its mouth and roared. The sound was wrong, too human, too articulate. And the smaller Titans responded immediately, their behavior shifting from random aggression to coordinated assault. They swarmed toward Guts from 3 directions, moving in patterns designed to trap and overwhelm. Shit! Levi's voice cut through the chaos. They're coordinating. Fall back to... The Beast Titan moved with impossible speed for something that size. It bent down, grabbed a boulder the size of a house, and threw it. The projectile screamed through the air like artillery. Guts saw it coming, saw the trajectory, knew his horse couldn't dodge in time. He kicked free of the stirrups and rolled left as the boulder hit. The horse vanished in an explosion of blood and stone fragments. Guts came up running, the Dragonslayer heavy in his hands. The smaller Titans were closing in, 5 of them, moving in coordinated attack patterns. Above, Levi's squad tried to engage, but the Titans were defending each other now, covering weak points, forcing the soldiers to retreat. This was worse than the first expedition. These Titans weren't just intelligent. They were being directed in real time by something that understood tactics. The Beast Titan roared again. Another boulder flew, this one aimed at Levi's squad. They scattered, cables firing in every direction. The boulder missed, but barely. Guts made a decision. He touched the Berserker Armor. The black plates erupted from beneath his clothing, spreading across his body in seconds. The helmet formed, snarling beast skull with curved horns. Pain lanced through him as the armor overrode his limiters, pushing his body beyond human capacity. The beast awakened. Guts exploded forward with inhuman speed. The closest Titan, a 7-meter class, tried to grab him. He slid under its reach, the Dragonslayer carving through both its ankles. It fell forward. Guts was already moving, running up its back, using its falling body as a ramp. He launched from its shoulders toward the next Titan, an 8-meter class. The Dragonslayer came around in a horizontal arc, cutting through the Titan's jaw and continuing through its neck. Not a clean nape strike, but devastating damage. The Titan toppled, and Guts landed on its chest, driving the blade down through its heart toward the nape from the front. Steel punched through spine. The Titan stopped moving. 2 down. 3 to go before he reached the Beast Titan. The remaining 3 Titans adjusted their approach, trying to surround him. The Berserker Armor's enhanced perception tracked all 3 simultaneously. One approaching from the right, one from the left, one circling behind. Guts charged the one on the right. It expected an attack. What it didn't expect was for Guts to slide between its legs, the Dragonslayer carving through both calves as he passed. The Titan collapsed backward. The one on the left lunged for him. Guts met it head on, the Dragonslayer punching straight through its reaching hand and into its face. He wrenched the blade up, carving through the skull and brain. The Titan shuddered and fell. The one behind him grabbed his shoulder. Massive fingers closed around his armored body, lifting him off the ground. Guts twisted, bringing the Dragonslayer around in an awkward angle. The blade caught the Titan's wrist, cutting deep but not severing. The grip loosened fractionally. Guts activated his arm cannon. The explosion at point-blank range destroyed the Titan's hand and sent Guts flying. He hit the ground rolling, came up running. The handless Titan was regenerating, but slowly, confused by the unfamiliar injury. Levi dropped from above, his blades finding the nape with surgical precision. "Stop showing off and focus on the big one." The beast Titan was retreating, backing away from the tower. It had seen enough. Seen that Guts could kill its soldiers faster than it could coordinate them. But as it retreated, it roared again, a long, modulated sound that echoed across the plains. And from the tree line, more Titans emerged, dozens of them. "Fall back," Erwin's voice carried across the battlefield. When had he arrived? "All units, retreat to Castle Utgard. We're overwhelmed." But they couldn't retreat. The Titans were between them and the tower now, cutting off escape routes. Levi's squad was scattered across the battlefield, engaging targets individually, unable to regroup. This was a trap. The beast Titan had drawn them out, let them commit, then sprung the ambush. It could plan. It could think. It could command. It was intelligent. Guts ran toward it, the Berserker Armor screaming in his veins. Kill the commander. Take out the head and the body dies. It was the same principle that had worked against Apostle armies. Remove the leader, and the lesser creatures lost coordination. The beast Titan saw him coming. It picked up another boulder, this one even larger, and threw it directly at Guts. Guts didn't slow. He angled his approach, timing his movement. The boulder hit the ground where he'd been a second before, cratering the earth. He used the impact's force to launch himself forward, the Berserker Armor's strength carrying him in a leap that covered 20 meters. He landed on the beast Titan's leg. The creature tried to shake him off. Guts drove the Dragonslayer into its thigh, using the blade as an anchor. He pulled himself up, climbing the Titan's massive body while it tried to grab him with hands too large for precision. 10 meters, 15. The nape was above him, steaming with the same heat all Titans radiated. Guts planted his feet on the beast Titan's shoulder blade and raised the Dragonslayer overhead. The beast Titan spoke. "Interesting," it said in perfect human speech. "Where did you come from?" Guts hesitated. 1 second, maybe less. But it was enough. The beast Titan grabbed him with both hands, its massive fingers closing around his armored body. It pulled him free, held him up to eye level. Those eyes weren't vacant. They were intelligent, curious, calculating. "You're not from here," the beast Titan continued, its voice deep and resonant. "Not from this world. I can see it in how you move, how you fight. You're something new." Guts struggled, but the grip was too strong even for the Berserker Armor. The Dragonslayer hung useless in his hand, unable to reach anything vital. "I wonder," the beast Titan mused, "what will happen if I—" Lightning struck, not from the sky, from the ground. Brilliant yellow light erupted between Guts and the beast Titan, blinding and thunderous. The massive hands released him, and he fell, hitting the ground hard. When the light cleared, another Titan stood there, 15 meters tall, humanoid but lean, with pointed ears and fierce green eyes that burned with intelligence and rage. This Titan was different from the others, more human, more controlled, more focused. Eren had transformed. The attack Titan and the beast Titan faced each other, and for a moment, the entire battlefield went silent. Every soldier, every Titan, watched these two face off. Then the attack Titan charged with a roar that was all too human. The battle exploded into chaos. Titans swarmed from every direction. Soldiers fought desperately to survive. And in the center of it all, two intelligent Titans fought with the fury of mortal enemies. Guts pulled himself to his feet, the Berserker Armor's time limit screaming in his mind. 8 minutes, maybe 9. He was pushing his limit, but he couldn't retreat. Not with Eren fighting alone, not with soldiers dying around him. The beast howled in his mind, demanding more blood, more killing, more death. And for once, Guts agreed. He picked up the Dragonslayer and charged back into hell. The attack titan and the beast titan collided with the force of a landslide. Eren fought with raw fury, his punches lacking technique but compensating with sheer aggression. The beast titan fought with calculated precision, using its superior reach and strength to control the engagement. Each blow shook the ground. Each impact sent shockwaves across the battlefield. Guts didn't watch the spectacle. He had his own problems. 3 titans converged on his position, 9, 8, and 7 meters respectively. The Berserker Armor's internal clock screamed warnings. 9 minutes, maybe 10 if he pushed. After that, his body would start breaking down irreparably. After 15, he wouldn't be able to stop killing until his heart gave out or someone put him down. Time to end this fast. The 9-meter titan reached him first, its hand sweeping low to grab. Guts jumped, planting his boot on the reaching hand and running up the arm. The titan tried to shake him off. Too slow. Guts reached the shoulder, the Dragonslayer already in motion. The blade carved through the nape in one devastating strike. The titan died mid-shake, its body beginning to dissolve before it hit the ground. The 8-meter class tried to catch him as he fell. Guts twisted mid-air, bringing the Dragonslayer around in a spin. The blade caught the titan's face, carving through bone and brain. Not a nape strike, but catastrophic damage. It stumbled, blind and dying. Guts landed hard, rolled, came up as the 7-meter class charged. This one was faster, an abnormal, sprinting on all fours. It leapt, jaws wide. Guts dropped to one knee and thrust upward. The Dragonslayer punched through the titan's lower jaw, through its brain, and emerged from the top of its skull. Momentum carried the creature over him, impaled on 7 feet of steel. It thrashed once, twice, then went still. Guts wrenched the blade free, breathing hard. His body was screaming, muscles tearing, bones grinding, blood vessels rupturing under the strain. The Berserker Armor's price was coming due. Around him, Levi's squad was carving through titans with desperate efficiency. Petra took a nape. Another soldier, Oluo, got a clean kill on a 6-meter class. But more kept coming. The beast titan's roar echoed again, and fresh titans emerged from the tree line. How many did it control? How many could it create? The attack titan slammed a punch into the beast titan's jaw, snapping its head sideways. The beast titan caught Eren's arm on the return, twisted, and threw him 30 meters into a cluster of smaller titans. They swarmed immediately, biting and clawing. "Eren!" Mikasa's scream cut through the chaos. She launched toward the pile of titans, her blades flashing with mechanical precision. She killed 2 before they even realized she was there. A third tried to grab her. She severed its fingers and carved through its nape in the same motion. Levi was there a second later, his movements so fast they seemed supernatural. 4 strikes, 4 dead titans. He and Mikasa pulled Eren free. The attack titan was wounded but regenerating, steam pouring from multiple bite wounds. The beast titan watched with those 2 intelligent eyes. It wasn't pressing the attack, it was studying them, learning, testing. "It's analyzing our tactics." Erwin's voice carried from somewhere behind the lines. "It's not trying to win, it's gathering intelligence." Which meant retreat wasn't an option. If they ran, the beast titan would have learned everything about how the Survey Corps fought. It would share that knowledge with whatever force controlled it. Next time, they'd be ready. Next time, the ambush would be perfect. They had to kill it here. Now. Guts looked at the attack titan, looked at Eren, still learning to control his transformation, still fighting on pure instinct. The kid was brave, determined, but he was overmatched. The beast titan had centuries of experience. Guts could see it in how it moved, how it fought. This wasn't its first war. The Berserker Armor whispered in Guts' mind. 11 minutes, crossing into dangerous territory. His body was starting to break down. He could feel internal bleeding, could taste copper, could hear his heartbeat thundering irregularly. But if he pulled back now, Eren would die. Mikasa would die trying to save him. Levi's squad would die trying to buy time for retreat. Fuck it. Guts charged toward the Beast Titan, roaring through the Berserker Armor's helmet. The sound was inhuman. Part rage, part agony, part pure killing intent. The Beast Titan turned, saw him coming, and backhanded a smaller Titan toward him like swatting a ball. The 10-meter class flew through the air, helpless and terrified. Guts didn't slow. He angled his approach, timing the impact. The flying Titan reached him. Guts leaped, planted his boot on its chest, and used it as a springboard. The additional momentum launched him directly at the Beast Titan's face. The creature's eyes widened fractionally, surprise maybe, or respect, and it tried to swat him out of the air. Too slow. Guts' trajectory carried him past the reaching hand. The Dragonslayer carved through the Beast Titan's left eye as he passed. The roar of pain was earth-shaking. Guts landed on the Beast Titan's shoulder, his prosthetic hand grabbing a handful of fur for anchor. The creature thrashed, trying to grab him, but he was too close to its head. The angle was wrong for its massive hands. The nape was right there. Steaming, vulnerable. Guts raised the Dragonslayer overhead with both hands. Wait. The Beast Titan's voice was strained, pained, but still controlled. You don't know what you're fighting. What's really happening here? Don't care. You should, because whoever brought you to this world, they're connected to us, to the Titans, to everything. The remaining eye fixed on him. Kill me, and you'll never know the truth. Guts hesitated. 1 second. But in that second, the attack Titan crashed into the Beast Titan's back. The impact sent all three of them tumbling. Guts lost his grip, fell, hit the ground hard enough to crack ribs even through the armor. He rolled to his feet, coughing blood inside the helmet. 13 minutes. Body shutting down, vision narrowing to a red-tinged tunnel. The attack Titan had the Beast Titan pinned, raining punches down on its face. Brutal, effective, mindless. Eren had given himself completely to the transformation's rage. "Eren, the nape!" Levi shouted. "Stop beating it!" And the Beast Titan's roar shook the battlefield. Every Titan, every single one, stopped fighting and retreated. They turned as one and ran toward the tree line with unnatural coordination, including the Beast Titan. It threw Eren off with a surge of strength, rolled to its feet, and sprinted away. The attack Titan gave chase, but it was slower, less coordinated. The Beast Titan disappeared into the forest, and within seconds, every other Titan had vanished with it. The battlefield went silent except for the sound of soldiers breathing hard and the crackling of steam from dissolving corpses. They'd won, hadn't they? Guts stood in the center of the carnage, the Berserker Armor still active, still demanding more blood. But there were no more targets, no more enemies, just exhausted soldiers and questions without answers. "Guts." Levi's voice cut through the bloodlust. "Armor off, now." 14 minutes. Guts could feel his body breaking, could feel bones grinding against each other, could feel his heart stuttering. He reached up with shaking hands and touched the helmet. It didn't want to release. The beast inside screamed. More fighting, more killing. Don't stop. Never stop. "Guts!" Levi was closer now, blades drawn. "If you don't take it off, I'm putting you down." Guts forced the helmet to retract through sheer willpower. The chest plate followed, the gauntlets, the greaves. The armor collapsed back into its dormant state, and the pain hit like a tidal wave. He dropped to his knees, blood pouring from his nose, his ears, the corners of his eyes. His vision blurred. His lungs wouldn't fill properly. Something inside was very, very wrong. Hands grabbed him before he could fall completely. Petra and another soldier, Eld, supported his weight. "Medical, now!" Petra shouted. Guts tried to speak, to tell them he'd be fine, but blood came out instead of words. The Berserker Armor had pushed him past his limit. 14 minutes, he'd gambled and lost. Through the haze of pain, he saw Aaron's Titan form collapse. Lightning flashed again, and the kid emerged from the dissolving body, naked, steaming, unconscious, but alive. Mikasa was there instantly, wrapping him in her cloak, her face a mask of relief and fury. Erwin rode up, his uniform torn and bloody but his expression sharp. Casualty count? 8 dead, 14 wounded, 3 critical, someone reported. But we held. The Titans retreated. We won. Did we? Erwin looked toward the tree line where the beast Titan had disappeared. It gathered intelligence on our formation, our tactics, our Titan shifter. It tested our responses and learned our weaknesses. Then it retreated before we could kill it. His voice was cold. That's not a defeat. That's a successful reconnaissance mission. The implications settled over the soldiers like a shroud. They hadn't won. They'd survived. There was a difference. Guts felt consciousness slipping. The world was going dark at the edges, narrowing to a pinpoint. 14 minutes in the Berserker Armor. He'd be lucky if he woke up at all. The last thing he heard before the darkness took him was Erwin's voice, quiet and determined. Prepare for war, the real war. Because now they know we have weapons that can fight back. And they'll be ready next time. Then nothing. Guts woke 3 days later in the medical bay, every inch of his body screaming. A doctor sat beside his bed, the same gray-haired woman who'd treated him before. She looked exhausted. "You're lucky to be alive," she said without preamble. "Internal bleeding, fractured ribs, torn muscles throughout your back and legs. Minor brain hemorrhaging. You wore that armor for too long." "How long was I out?" 3 days. You've been unconscious with a fever for most of it. Your body was shutting down." She refilled a glass of water, helped him drink. "Captain Levi has been checking on you. He wants to talk when you're conscious." "Where's Aaron?" "Recovered. Titan transformation takes a toll, but nothing like what you went through." She stood. "I'll tell Levi you're awake. But understand, you do that again, push yourself that far, and your body won't recover. That armor is killing you." She left. Guts stared at the ceiling, cataloging damage. The doctor was right. 14 minutes had nearly killed him. 15 would have been past the point of no return. The door opened. Levi entered, his expression unreadable as always. "You're an idiot," he said flatly. "Heard that before. 14 minutes in that armor. The doctor says 15 would have been fatal." Levi pulled up a chair, sat backwards on it. "So why'd you push it? Why risk dying for people you barely know?" Guts considered the question. Why had he pushed? Why had he stayed when he could have retreated? He told himself he didn't care about these people, about their war, about humanity's survival behind walls. But when the moment came, when soldiers were dying and Aaron was overwhelmed, he'd charged in anyway. Old habits, old scars. The part of him that still remembered being a soldier, being part of something larger than himself. The part that hadn't died in the eclipse. "Because someone had to," Guts said finally. Levi nodded slowly. "Erwin wants you in the Shiganshina operation. Says with your armor and Aaron's Titan form, we might actually have a chance of reaching the basement and holding position long enough to search. He paused. You don't have to say yes. You've paid your dues, more than paid them. What do you think? I think you're going to die if you keep using that armor. But I also think we're going to die if we don't find answers soon. Levi met his gaze. The Beast Titan knows about us now. Knows our tactics, our weapons, our Titan shifter. It's going to come back with a plan to counter everything we have. Unless we move first, unless we find out what's in that basement and use it. How long until the operation? 2 months. Irwin's building a strike force, every elite soldier we have, plus Aaron. Probably 60 soldiers total. Levi's voice was flat. Projected casualties are 75%. 45 soldiers. 45 people who'd volunteered to die for answers. Guts closed his eyes. He should say no. Should tell them to find another way, another weapon. Should protect himself and let these soldiers face their own doom. But he'd seen the Beast Titan. Seen its intelligence. Seen how it commanded lesser Titans like pieces on a board. That thing was planning something. Something that would end with humanity extinct behind these walls. And whoever had pulled Guts into this world, whatever had torn him from his own hell and dropped him here, it was connected. He could feel it. The same wrongness he'd felt around the God Hand. The same sense of manipulation by forces beyond understanding. I'll think about it, Guts said. That's more than I expected. Levi stood. Rest. Recover. You've got 8 weeks to decide if you're willing to die with us. He left. Guts lay in the medical bay, listening to the sounds of soldiers training outside, preparing for a mission most of them wouldn't survive, fighting for a future that might not exist. It reminded him of the Band of the Hawk's final days, that same doomed determination, that same refusal to surrender even when the outcome was written in blood. The brand of sacrifice remained silent on his neck. No demons hunting him, no apostles tearing at him nightly. Just the weight of a choice. Stay and fight someone else's war, or walk away and let them die without him. Outside, someone was teaching new recruits how to use ODM gear. The instructor's voice carried through the window. The nape is everything. 1 meter high, 10 centimeters deep. Miss by an inch and you're dead. Now again! Young voices responding. Young soldiers learning to kill monsters. Young corpses in the making. Guts had been young once. Had believed fighting for something mattered. Had trusted Griffith's dream and paid for that trust with everything he loved. But these soldiers weren't following a dream. They were fighting for survival. For the chance to see tomorrow. For answers that might save everyone they'd lost. That was different. Wasn't it? The Dragonslayer leaned against the wall nearby. Someone had brought it in, cleaned the blood off, set it within reach. The blade was pitted and scarred from years of use, from hundreds of monsters killed, from battles that should have been impossible. And now it might be needed for one more fight. One more impossible battle. One more suicide mission disguised as hope. Guts reached out with his prosthetic hand and touched the blade's hilt. Still there. Still ready. Still waiting for the next monster to kill. Like always. 8 weeks passed like the final grains of sand in an hourglass. Inevitable, relentless. Counted by every soldier who knew what was coming. Guts spent the time healing and preparing. His body recovered slowly from the Berserker Armor's toll, the doctor watching him with perpetual disapproval as he pushed rehabilitation harder than any patient should. But Guts had survived worse. Had walked away from the eclipse when he should have died. Had worn the armor dozens of times and kept breathing when the curse should have consumed him. He was a survivor. It was all he knew how to be. The Shiganshina operation took shape around him like a storm-gathering force. Erwin recruited the Survey Corps' best, veterans who'd survived multiple expeditions, soldiers who could kill titans in their sleep, warriors who'd made peace with death and kept fighting anyway. 60 souls who understood the odds and volunteered regardless. Aaron trained obsessively with his titan transformation, learning to control the beast inside him, to fight with strategy instead of rage. Mikasa shadowed him constantly, her blades always ready, her eyes never leaving him for long. Levi drilled his squad until they moved like extensions of his will. Perfect coordination, flawless execution, the kind of unity that only came from knowing your life depended on the person beside you. And through it all, Guts watched, learned, remembered what it meant to be part of something larger than himself. On the final night before deployment, he found himself in the equipment yard, maintaining the Dragonslayer under cold starlight. The blade had served him through countless battles. It would serve him through one more. Can't sleep either? Petra approached, her ODM gear strapped to her waist, her expression tired but determined. Tomorrow we ride into hell. You'd think we'd want all the rest we could get. Sleep's overrated. She smiled, sad, knowing. That's what Captain Levi always says. She sat on a supply crate, watching him work. You decided to come. I wasn't sure you would. Neither was I. What changed your mind? Guts considered the question. What had changed? He could have left, could have walked away from this world's problems and focused on finding a way back to his own. The brand of sacrifice remained silent. No demons, no apostles, no nightly battles for survival. This world had given him something he hadn't had in years: peace. And he was about to throw it away for soldiers he barely knew, for a mission that would probably kill him, for answers that might not even exist. The beast Titan, Guts said finally. It knew I didn't belong here, knew I came from somewhere else, which means whatever pulled me into this world is connected to the Titans, connected to whoever's controlling them. He looked up at the stars, different constellations than his own world, alien and cold. I need to know why. Need to know what game I'm a piece in. And if the answers in that basement don't tell you, then I'll keep looking, keep fighting, until I find whoever's responsible and make them answer. His hand tightened on the Dragonslayer's hilt. I've spent years hunting the ones who destroyed my life. I'm not about to let someone else use me as a pawn. Petra nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're coming. You've already saved more lives than you know. Tactics you suggested. Overwhelming force, multiple simultaneous strikes. We've been drilling them. They work. Casualties in training have dropped 30%. That won't matter against what's coming. Maybe not. But it matters to the people who survived training because of it. It matters to their families. She stood, adjusting her gear. You see yourself as a monster, as something dark and broken. But you're not. Monsters don't hesitate to save people. Monsters don't push themselves past their limits to protect strangers. You don't know what I've done. No, but I know what you've done here, and that counts for something. She walked toward the barracks, then paused. Get some rest, Guts. Tomorrow we find out if humanity has a future. She disappeared into the darkness. Guts returned to his maintenance, the repetitive motion calming something in his mind. Sharpen, oil, check for cracks. The same ritual he'd performed before every battle. Tomorrow, 60 soldiers would ride beyond the walls toward Shiganshina, toward the basement that held secrets about Titans, about the world, about humanity's survival, toward answers bought with blood. And Guts would be among them, the Dragonslayer on his shoulder and the Berserker Armor pressed against his skin. Not because he believed in their cause, not because he trusted Erwin's vision, but because somewhere in this nightmare world of walls and giants and desperate humans, there was a truth waiting. A truth about why he'd been pulled from his own hell into theirs. The Beast Titan had recognized him, had known he didn't belong, which meant something larger was at play. Forces that moved between dimensions, that created monsters, that manipulated reality itself. Forces Guts had encountered before, in the Eclipse, in the God-Hand's dimensional throne room, in every apostle and demon that served powers beyond mortal understanding. Whatever controlled the Titans, whatever had breached these walls and hunted humanity for a century, it carried the same stench, the same wrongness, the same casual cruelty of entities that viewed human life as disposable. Guts had made a promise years ago, a promise that he'd kill anyone and anything that stood in his way, that he'd survive when everyone else fell, that he'd carve his path through demons and gods and fate itself. This world thought its Titans were the ultimate horror. They'd never seen what Guts had seen, never faced what he'd faced. Tomorrow, they'd ride into battle together, the Black Swordsman and the Survey Corps, soldiers born from different hells but united by the same desperate need for answers, for survival, for some proof that fighting impossible odds could mean something. 75% casualties, Irwin had said. 45 soldiers would die. 15 would survive. But statistics meant nothing when you'd already died once and kept breathing anyway. When you'd walked through the eclipse and lived. When you wore a curse that turned you into the monster you fought. Guts finished maintaining the Dragonslayer as dawn painted the eastern sky blood red. Somewhere beyond the walls, Titans waited. Somewhere beyond the Titans, the Beast Titan planned and schemed. And somewhere beyond all of it, an enemy Guts didn't yet understand pulled strings and moved pieces in a game played across dimensions. He'd survived the God-Hand's machinations, survived Griffith's betrayal, survived demons that would have broken anyone else. He'd survive this too, or he'd die trying to take as many enemies with him as possible. Either way, this world would remember the Black Swordsman, would remember the man who fought Titans without fear, who wore cursed armor and kept his humanity, who'd fallen through dimensions and refused to break. The Survey Corps was preparing to reclaim humanity's future. Guts was preparing to find out who'd stolen his past. Tomorrow, both hunts would begin in earnest. Tomorrow, the real war started. And when it ended, when the basement was opened and secrets revealed, the multiverse itself might tremble at what they'd unleashed. Because Guts had learned one truth in his years of fighting gods and monsters. Reality was thinner than people believed. Dimensions were permeable, and anything that could pull him into this hell could pull other things through as well. The Titans might be this world's nightmare, but Guts had brought his own nightmares with him, and he was very, very good at making his nightmares into weapons. The sun rose over Survey Corps headquarters. 60 soldiers assembled in the yard, some praying, some silent, some saying goodbye to friends they knew they'd never see again. Irwin stood before them, delivering a speech about duty and sacrifice and humanity's future. Levi checked his squad's equipment with obsessive precision. Aaron transformed into the attack Titan, ready to carry supplies and break through Titan lines. And Guts stood apart, the Dragonslayer on his shoulder, the Berserker Armor hidden beneath his cloak, his single eye fixed on the horizon. The walls were opening, the formation was moving, the mission was beginning. Somewhere beyond those walls, in ruins crawling with Titans and secrets buried in darkness, answers waited. Answers about the Titans, about the world, about why the multiverse had brought a monster hunter into a world of giants. Guts didn't know what they'd find in that basement. But whatever it was, he'd face it the same way he'd faced everything else. Head on, sword ready, refusing to surrender no matter the cost. The Titans had ruled this world for a century. That reign was about to end, one way or another.